At this point, Pang Hai would never admit what Yang Kai said was true. Otherwise, it would be equivalent to slapping his own face. In front of so many people, how could he just back down? So he instead doubled down and viciously shouted, "Boy, there should be a limit to how much nonsense you spew. This Pang is an Origin King Great Alchemist. So if I say it is the profound frost sacred lotus, it is the profound frost sacred lotus." As soon as this statement came out, everyone else regained some confidence in Pang Hai. After all, they didn't know Yang Kai, so how could they judge whether his words were trustworthy or not? Yang Kai grinned meaningfully. "I'm a Tao Source Grade Alchemist." He was telling the truth, but obviously, no one believed it. You see, this boy is just making up stories. You can't believe him. Pang Hai added insult to injury promptly. Everyone nodded lightly. It's fine. Yang Kai suddenly stood up and patted his butt off, cracking his neck as he stretched his arms. Everyone stared at him dumbfoundedly, wondering why it looked like he was suddenly preparing to fight. "Enough idle chatter," Yang Kai said while sweeping his eyes across the crowd, causing everyone he stared at to involuntarily shiver, as if they were being stared at by some terrifying beast. "Since you're all here, do me a favor?" He grinned and quickly said, "Hand over your space rings." "What?" Everyone was startled, as if they couldn't believe what they had just heard. But soon, a few people became furious. "Bastard! What did you just say? You think you are above the heavens? A trivial first-order Tao Source Realm trash dares try to rob us? Haha, too laughable. This kid is definitely crazy. Since you've made such a good joke, you hand over your space ring and we'll spare your life." Everyone in the group was angered and hurled ridicule or threats. In any case, none of them cared about Yang Kai's words, as none of them believed he had the ability to back them up. All of them felt this boy had simply lost his mind and was acting far beyond his station. Yang Kai smiled and turned to Zhou Huai indifferently before saying, "Just now, this friend was wondering why after so long, no one else came to investigate this heavenly manifestation. Right? I'll answer your question now. It's not that no one came here to investigate, but that I drove all of them off." "You?" Zhou Huai couldn't help but sneer. "Isn't that too much even for a joke?" Yang Kai shook his head and replied, "There were a few people who were overconfident in their abilities and tried to expel me, but they all ended up like that." Saying so, he lightly pointed towards a certain nearby spot. When Jing Li's group turned their eyes in the direction Yang Kai pointed, they saw a headless corpse lying amidst the mountain rocks, fresh blood still wetting the group. Nearby, there was also a corpse of a woman that seemed to have fallen from a high altitude and broken to pieces. Those two, they're from Flowing Shadow Sword Sect. Jing Li observed for a moment before exclaiming suddenly, "Yeah, they said they belonged to the Flowing Shadow Sword Sect." Yang Kai nodded. "You actually killed them?" Jing Li looked at Yang Kai in shock. "You were able to kill them? No wonder there was a faint smell of blood in the air." Zhou Huai frowned. The smell was simply covered by this strange fragrance. "Damn it! I almost didn't notice. Even if you killed these two people, so what?" Pang Hai suddenly pointed at Yang Kai coldly and declared solemnly, "Those two from Flowing Shadow Sword Sect weren't very strong, and there were only two of them. Do you think you can do to us five what you did to them?" When this statement came out, everyone came back to their senses and nodded, thinking that their opponent was a lone first-order Tao Source Realm boy. Even if he had some strange methods, in the end, two fists could not block four palms. "Ha!" Yang Kai sighed. "If possible, I didn't want to get rough. I just wanted to find a few herbs. But if you don't want to cooperate, then..." As he spoke, Yang Kai's figure suddenly flickered and he vanished from where he stood. In that instant, the expressions of the five people changed drastically as they hurriedly released their divine senses trying to locate Yang Kai. But despite spreading out their divine senses, none of them were able to discover any trace of Yang Kai, as if he had simply disappeared from existence. This strange situation made all five of them pale as anxiety surged up deep in their hearts. Suddenly, a hand lightly landed on Jing Li's shoulder while at the same time, Yang Kai's figure appeared strangely behind him and spoke calmly. "I should warn you now, don't try to resist, otherwise I may accidentally kill you." Jingli felt like he was struck by lightning, and cold sweat instantly began to drip down his back as he stood stiffly on the spot, not daring to move. He could feel that the hand resting on his shoulders contained an imposing and overbearing power that was constantly threatening to swallow him whole like a vast, raging ocean. It was a force he felt utterly powerless to resist. Xiao, xiao, xiao. The other 4 people instantly scattered as they took distance from Jingli, pushing their source chi madly as they stared at Yang Kai vigilantly and solemnly. Before Yang Kai spoke, none of them even realized he had arrived behind Jingli, so they couldn't help asking themselves if it had been them in Jingli's place. Could they have avoided being caught? The answer was obviously no. Thinking so, everyone broke out into a cold sweat. This friend? Jingli gulped as big drops of sweat slipped from his forehead, and he spoke with difficulty. There is no grievance or enmity between you and I, and this Jing has not treated you? Relax? Yang Kai interrupted him before he was finished and said, I'm not going to take your life, although it would be easy for me to do so. Since there are no grievances between us, as you say, I have no reason to kill. Yes, yes. Jingli nodded repeatedly, squeezing out an ugly smile as he said, What friend says is absolutely right. And, like I said a moment ago, I'm simply searching for a few herbs. Yang Kai reached out to grab Jing Li's space ring as he spoke. Effortlessly taking down his frozen opponent's space ring, Yang Kai swept it with his divine sense quickly before frowning and handing it back to Jing Li. You can go now. Yang Kai patted Jing Li's shoulder with a smile and said. Jing Li almost collapsed when he felt the hand leave his shoulder, but somehow, he managed to maintain his composure and stay on his feet. Holding down his fear, he swept his space ring with his divine sense, and in the next moment let out a slight cry of surprise as he turned a strange look towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai frowned and said, You don't have what I want in your ring. So that's how it is. Jing Li suddenly realized, cupped his fists ecstatically, and shouted, Many thanks. Saying so, he hurriedly used his movement skill to escape into the distance. Although he had received a fright, he was unharmed and had not lost anything, which was a result he could only have dreamed of a moment ago. So how could Jing Li dare be dissatisfied? Naturally, it was better to let bygones be bygones than try to seek revenge. Next, Yang Kai looked at the remaining 4 people and grinned. Don't force me to act myself. You can all rest assured that if you don't have what I need, I won't take anything from you. If you do, well, you can only blame your bad luck. The other 4 looked at each other, their faces turning different shades of blue and red, but they didn't dare to leave without permission. Judging from the strange movement skill that Yang Kai just displayed, none of them had confidence they could escape. Likely, they would instantly be caught and subdued if they tried to run. This friend, what are you looking for? Please just speak, and if this Zhou has it, he will certainly offer it to you. Zhou Huai thought for a while before speaking. The others also nodded fiercely and said, Yes, if we have what this friend wants, we will hand it over willingly. Although from Jing Li's reaction just now, Yang Kai really didn't seem to have taken anything from his space ring. Everyone had their own secrets which they kept in their space rings. No one wanted to hang over their space ring for others to inspect. Don't trouble yourselves. I'll check for myself. Yang Kai coldly snorted. I'll count to 3. Those who don't hand over their space ring will face the consequences. With clear murderous intent appearing on his face, Yang Kai really didn't seem to be joking as he began counting. Ha! Seeing this, Zhou Huai could only sigh as he gave up trying to avoid the inevitable. Reluctantly taking down his space ring from his hand, he tossed it over to Yang Kai with a wry smile and said, I hope you keep your word. Yang Kai didn't say a word, caught the space ring and checked it, a moment later tossing it back without taking anything. Zhou Huai happily caught it and didn't even bother to say anything before flying off. Among the 5 people, the 2 strongest had already given in, so how could the remaining 3 have the courage to resist? After exchanging a few glances, they took down their space rings and handed them over to Yang Kai. After some inspection, Yang Kai frowned, because he didn't see anything he needed. Whether it was the 3 remaining herbs he needed to refine the extraordinary treasure pill, or the tribulation fruit, if he couldn't obtain the necessary ingredients, he wouldn't even be able to attempt to refine the extraordinary treasure pill. If that was the case, he could only swallow the extraordinary treasure lotus when it matured. Doing this would greatly waste its medicinal efficacies, so Xianxia was naturally unwilling and only thought of doing so as a last resort. After expelling the remaining 3 people, Xianxia continued to sit cross-legged and wait for his next victim. He had secretly decided that before any real masters arrived, he would collect as much as possible. Otherwise, once those masters arrived, a fierce battle would be inevitable. For the next 2 days, Xianxia guarded the extraordinary treasure lotus. Many cultivators were attracted by the heavenly manifestation, but through some stroke of luck, no one Xianxia needed to fear had appeared. The fate of those who did appear was naturally the same as that of Jingli and his group. All of them came in high spirits and were expelled with great embarrassment. Those who knew their limits handed over their space rings obediently, and Xianxia let them leave safely after a quick inspection. As for those who refused to be persuaded peacefully, Xianxia naturally suppressed them before snatching their space rings and inspecting them himself. Although Xianxia's actions would obviously offend many people, he didn't take any extreme measures like rashly killing and robbing. So his situation wasn't too serious. If he really snatched everything from everyone he met, his end would be unavoidable. Once he left the Four Seasons realm, he would become the target of every major sect. At that time, unless he joined Azure Sun Temple or Gao Shueting was willing to protect him, he would inevitably be hunted down by the powerhouses of the sects he had offended. His current approach, however, guaranteed that people wouldn't be too offended and also guaranteed him a good harvest. 2 days later, Xianxia had already collected 2 of the 3 missing herbs, leaving just 1 left to find. According to his observations, though, the extraordinary treasure lotus would fully mature within a day, so if the last auxiliary ingredient couldn't be found by then, he could only swallow it. Now, there were only 2 days before the exit to the Four Seasons realm closed. Xianxia was growing anxious, because if he guessed right, the true masters should soon be arriving. As he was thinking so, Xianxia's expression suddenly changed as he turned to stare in a certain direction. A moment later, a wry grin appeared on his lips as he muttered, "Seems they've come a bit early." In the direction he was staring, dazzling light was rushing towards Xianxia's position. This light had several auras emanating from it, indicating that there was more than one individual approaching. However, one aura, in particular, gave Xianxia an extraordinary feeling, as it was clearly far stronger than the others. This aura obviously belonged to a Dao Source Master who was strong enough to give Xianxia real trouble. But since they were too far away still, Xianxia didn't know who it was. The stream of light soon arrived at the top of the mountain and came to a stop some distance away from Xianxia. When the glow faded, a number of figures appeared. As soon as these people showed up, one of the men who looked roughly 30 years old pointed at Xianxia and shouted, "Senior Brother Zhuang, it was that bastard who robbed me and junior sister Su of our space rings." As he spoke, a beautiful, fair-skinned woman in the group nodded her head as she glared at Xianxia with a deep and bitter look, as if she had some unforgivable hatred towards him. Xianxia narrowed his eyes as he observed this man and woman, feeling they were a bit familiar and soon recognizing them as 2 of the guests he had entertained yesterday. However, the fate of these 2 people was the same as all the others who came here. They were both quickly subdued by Xianxia before having their space rings snatched and inspected. Oh? It turns out these 2 friends were from Orthodoxy Temple. It seems I've been disrespectful. Xianxia smiled as he looked at the talking man and cupped his fists. He hadn't inquired about the origins of these 2 people before, but seeing them with Zhuang Bufan, Xianxia naturally understood their background. Orthodoxy Temple was one of the top sects in the Southern Territory, so as elite disciples, so this man and woman naturally had high pride. As such, how could they possibly stomach being suppressed and then robbed? Most likely, after they were victimized yesterday, they had used some means to contact Zhuang Bufan, their eldest senior brother, hoping he would seek recompense for them. Of course, the most important factor in all of this was the extraordinary treasure lotus. By calling Zhuang Bufan over, not only was there a chance this man and woman could get their revenge on Xianxia, but they may also be able to obtain this strange spirit flower. Bah! The man who was speaking heard Yang Kai's words and let out a cold snort. Brat, don't think you can talk your way out of this. Quickly admit your mistakes. Kneel down, kowtow a few times and slap your face. Then maybe Senior Brother Zhuang will forgive you. Senior Brother has always been kind and righteous, never killing the innocent or oppressing the weak. But if you insist on being unreasonable, The meaning behind his words was self-evident. Far different from the timid words he left after being deterred by Yang Kai yesterday. Now that he had someone to support him, this man made no attempt to hide his arrogance. What friend means? I don't understand. Yang Kai casually responded. Don't play dumb. The man shouted angrily. You know exactly what you've done. He. Yang Kai chuckled as he turned his eyes to Zhuang Bufan and asked, Brother Zhuang, what do you say? Since coming here, Zhuang Bufan had yet to speak as his eyes drifted back and forth between the extraordinary treasure lotus and Yang Kai, the look of doubt on his face getting thicker and thicker. He had two doubts. One was about what this extraordinary treasure lotus was. He was the strongest Dao Source Realm disciple in Orthodoxy Temple and had extraordinary knowledge and experience. So he had a vague idea about what this extraordinary treasure lotus was, but he couldn't be certain, leaving him somewhat suspicious. The second doubt he had was about Yang Kai because no matter how he looked, the opposite party was nothing but a first-order Dao Source cultivator. Yet with just this kind of cultivation, Yang Kai had somehow easily subdued his junior brother and junior sister. If his junior brother and junior sister hadn't come to him and explained this matter personally, Zhuang Bufan would not have believed it. At this moment, upon hearing Yang Kai's question, Zhuang Bufan frowned, cupped his fists and said, Dare I ask how to address this friend? Although he came here to avenge his junior brother and junior sister, he still showed a polite appearance and did not immediately act against Yang Kai, showing a great breadth of character. Yang Kai. Yang Kai cupped his fists and replied, This Zhuang will remember your name. Brother Yang came together with Azure Sun Temple. Correct. Zhuang Bufan's face became more confused. But why have I never heard of anyone like Brother Yang belonging to Azure Sun Temple? Hearing this, Yang Kai raised his brow and praised, Brother Zhuang's powers of observation and memory are outstanding. I did indeed arrive together with Azure Sun Temple's group. Zhuang Bufan was the first person Yang Kai had encountered who actually recalled him coming together with Azure Sun Temple. At that time, hundreds of people had gathered in the unnamed mountain valley, so remembering Yang Kai's face from amongst the crowd with just a brief glance was truly an impressive feat. The reason why Brother Zhuang has never heard of me is that this Yang is not an Azure Sun Temple disciple. It is only for certain reasons that I was able to accompany Elder Gao here. So, that's how it is. Zhuang Bufan nodded lightly, not asking anymore. In his opinion, Yang Kai probably had some kind of relationship with a high-level Azure Sun Temple elder, which was why Gao Shueting would bring him to the unnamed mountain valley and why he could enter the Four Seasons realm. After pondering for a moment, Zhuang Bufan continued, Originally, this Zhuang's junior brother and junior sisters suffering a small loss at Brother Yang's hand could only be blamed on their inadequate skill, and they should not have any grounds to complain. Nor should this Zhuang have come seeking redress for them. Regarding this, I hope Brother Yang will be understanding. He didn't show any disdain or disrespect towards Yang Kai just because the latter had a lower cultivation. Instead, he deliberately explained his position and even expressed embarrassment at his current conduct and the conduct of his juniors, causing the man and the woman Yang Kai had expelled yesterday to turn red with shame. I understand. Yang Kai chuckled, feeling in his heart that this Zhuang Bufan was an honorable character. However, since I am their senior brother, I must act like one. Zhuang Bufan declared as he calmly but solemnly spoke. Since my junior brother and junior sister have requested my aid, this Zhuang cannot feign ignorance. It is, after all, a senior brother's duty to shelter his junior brothers and junior sisters. As soon as he said this, the few people gathered around him showed a touch of emotion on their faces as they stared towards his back, like they were gazing up at a tall mountain that could withstand any violent storm, keeping them safe and secure. Brother Yang, how do you suggest we solve this matter? Zhuang Bufan looked at Yang Kai faintly and asked. He seemed unwilling to bully the weak, so he handed the initiative directly to Yang Kai, his words demonstrating both magnanimity and incomparable self-confidence, as if no matter what Yang Kai decided, he would be able to handle it perfectly. Yang Kai grinned hearing this and said, "Has Brother Zhuang heard the whole story of what happened?" Zhuang Bufan nodded. "Yes. They said very clearly that Brother Yang attacked and subdued them before robbing them." "Oh." Yang Kai raised his brow and said, "I don't deny subduing them, but regarding this talk of robbery, I'm afraid I must disagree." "What's wrong?" Zhuang Bufan frowned, seemingly a little displeased. "Is Brother Yang willing to act but unwilling to admit?" "Nothing of the sort. It's just that if I haven't done something, how could I admit to it? Wouldn't that just be disgracing myself?" Yang Kai looked at the man and woman with an innocent expression and asked, "You two say I robbed you, yes? Then tell me, what exactly did you lose?" The man heard this and went speechless. He really hadn't lost anything. Yang Kai had snatched their space rings, but he had returned them after simply checking, a fact he did not clearly explain to Zhuang Bufan. Seeing his expression, Yang Kai immediately understood and laughed. "Brother Zhuang, it seems you really haven't heard the whole story." Zhuang Bufan's face went dark as he turned around and asked the now blushing man, "What happened?" The man was unable to respond as his eyes darted about, not certain how he should explain. Zhuang Bufan turned to the young woman and asked again, "Junior Sister Su, were you robbed of anything?" The woman surnamed Su bit her red lip and shook her head reluctantly. "No, I was not." "And that's that." Yang Kai cut in quickly as he turned to Zhuang Bufan and said, "They didn't lose anything, so how could they say I robbed them? As for attacking them, and how can a cultivator go through life without conflict? Could it be that just because these two are disciples of Orthodoxy Temple, I am unable to make a move against them?" At this point, Yang Kai's voice sank as his expression became stern as he said, "Furthermore, there is a reason why I had to subdue them. Because of the spirit flower behind you?" Zhuang Bufan was a sharp individual, so he immediately understood the situation. "Indeed," Yang Kai said in a serious tone. "With Brother Zhuang's eyesight, he can probably see that this spirit flower has yet to mature. Picking it prematurely will greatly damage its medicinal properties. So I have been guarding this place to avoid some people who are unable to judge its value properly destroying it. Over the last few days, I have expelled several such individuals, and when your junior brother and junior sister came here yesterday. And you don't need to say anything more. I can surmise what happened next." Zhuang Bufan nodded lightly. His junior brother and junior sister, depending on their identity as Orthodoxy Temple disciples, probably arrived here, saw how precious the spirit flower was and how low Yang Kai's cultivation was, then immediately tried to drive him away, but had the tables turned on them. After being embarrassed, they had become angry out of shame and contacted Zhuang Bufan to avenge their grievance. "It's good that Brother Zhuang understands." Yang Kai laughed when he saw Zhuang Bufan being so amenable. "And there's no need to say anything more. Brother Yang, let us fight." Zhuang Bufan suddenly turned and declared. "Huh!" Yang Kai froze for a moment before shouting, "I just painstakingly explained everything. Did Brother Zhuang still not understand?" Zhuang Bufan shook his head. "I've understood the whole story, from beginning to end. This fight will not be for my junior brother and junior sister, nor for any kind of grievances, only for the spirit flower behind you." As he spoke, he pushed his source chi, causing his robes and black hair to flutter despite there being no wind, his momentum rising steadily. He continued, "Although Brother Yang discovered this spirit flower first, and has been guarding it all this time, since it has not yet been picked, it does not belong to anyone. This treasure, this Zhuang does not want to miss it, so there is only one option left." Yang Kai stared at him in a daze for quite some time before smiling bitterly. "Although I don't want to admit it, Brother Zhuang is really a forthright man of great integrity, far better than those who casually speak flowered lies to hide their sinister intent. This Yang appreciates Brother Zhuang's character, so he will ask once more, is there no other option but for us to fight? If Brother Yang feels he cannot win, he can leave now. This Zhuang actually does not want to bully the weak." Zhuang Bufan frowned and replied, "All right then." Yang Kai sighed helplessly. If that is the case, there truly is nothing more to say. At this point, Yang Kai's body shook as his source chi surged, causing a violent storm to swirl around him as he shot up into the sky. Zhuang Bufan narrowed his eyes and shouted in a low voice, "Brother Yang is truly extraordinary. My junior brother and junior sister's loss at your hands was not undeserved. Haha, Brother Zhuang. Please be careful not to wind up in a similarly embarrassing position." Yang Kai laughed as he swung his fist, creating a great pressure that seemed capable of smashing the world as he swooped down towards Zhuang Bufan's head from above like a great falling mountain. "All of you stand back and do not interfere." Zhuang Bufan gave a command while at the same time sending out a palm that caused the surrounding wind to churn crazily, counterattacking Yang Kai while shouting, "Soaring Cloud's palm, for Imperial realms." An energy visible to the naked eye burst from his palm and transformed into a kind of flood dragon, shaking its head and wagging its tail as it rushed towards Yang Kai and devoured him whole. Zhuang Bufan didn't have the slightest joy after his apparent success, his brow simply furrowing as he stared forward, because he found that in the face of his attack, Yang Kai had not made any attempt to dodge, and instead charged forward at an even faster speed. "Brother Zhuang." Yang Kai's voice rang out, cracking somewhat from the rampaging energy he was emitting. "This Yang must force a quick end to this battle. After all, while you may only have one enemy, I have many. This Yang has no time or energy to spare on a drawn-out conflict with you." As his words fell, he rushed right up to Zhuang Bufan, turned his fist into a palm, and thrust it directly onto Zhuang Bufan's palm. Honk! The moment the two palms touched, a huge burst of energy suddenly appeared, creating a halo of light that rapidly expanded in all directions. Zhuang Bufan felt as if he had been struck by lightning as his body sank suddenly into the ground, creating a huge pit right below his feet as countless cracks began to spread out around him. A competition of source chi? Zhuang Bufan's face changed drastically as he instantly understood Yang Kai's intentions. This opponent, who was only a first-order Dao source realm cultivator, actually gave up all opportunities to fight using secret techniques and artifacts and instead chose the fiercest and most direct method of battle. This was no doubt the fastest way to decide a victor because no one could dodge or retreat. Only the one who had stronger, more vigorous source chi would emerge the winner in such a head-on competition. But where is this boy getting such confidence from? With just a trivial first-order Dao source realm cultivation, does he really believe he can win in a competition of source chi against me? As these distracting thoughts flashed across Zhuang Bufan's mind, a trace of anger appeared on his face as he felt he was being underestimated. While keeping his palm in contact with Yang Kai's palms, Zhuang Bufan turned his body and threw out his other palm, inverting sun and moon. Although Zhuang Bufan was the strongest Dao source realm cultivator in Orthodoxy Temple, he was different from Xianxia and Wuxia. Although it had not been publicly confirmed, the disciples and elders of all the big sects were 99% certain that Xianxia had some type of special constitution, but what exactly it was, none but the elders of Azure Sun Temple knew. Needless to say, Wuxia possessed the yin-yang dual body, giving him a distinct advantage over other cultivators in the same realm since he was born. However, Zhuang Bufan had no such advantage but still remained the pillar of his sect's Dao source realm cultivators. His physique was ordinary, but his talent was good enough that he was able to achieve an equal standing with Xianxia and Wuchang, and had even fought against Wuchang several times without losing. This was all thanks to his extremely solid foundation and vigorous source chi. He was the type of person who simply worked harder than anyone else, cultivating extremely diligently all the time, putting in enough effort to make up for the innate differences between him and Wuchang and Xiaosheng. Orthodoxy Temple's master, Lei Gu, once said that if Zhuang Bufan possessed a special constitution like Wuchang or Xiaosheng, his achievements would be even greater than those two now. The words of a third-order Emperor Realm Master had extremely high credibility and were also reflected in Zhuang Bufan's hard work. What Zhuang Bufan was most proud of was the purity and density of his source chi. His source chi, like his character and personality, was as calm and steady as an immovable mountain. He felt that this was his greatest strength, and it was the foundation which he used to stand shoulder to shoulder with Xiaxiang Wuchang and other geniuses in his generation. But now, there was someone who wanted to compete with him in this exact field, his speciality, and that person was just a first-order Dao source realm. Even if Zhuang Bufan had a calm temperament, he couldn't help feeling a bit angry, and without even hesitating, he directly used his most powerful secret art, inverting sun and moon. Since you want to fight this way, I will grant your wish, and with the strongest force I can muster. When the second palm was thrust towards him, Yang Kai's eyes shrank, because what he saw approaching him was not a palm, but a vast ocean, a bottomless abyss which threatened to engulf him and tear him apart. With a great roar, Yang Kai's whole figure swelled up as a series of popping sounds echoed from his body. Accompanied by these popping sounds, a dozen drops of pure golden blood were exploded by Yang Kai in his dantian, all transforming into pure source qi that filled his entire body with a dazzling golden radiance. An explosion of wind erupted. The Orthodoxy Temple disciples who had followed Zhuang Bufan here were all dumbfounded. Under their stunned gazes, Yang Kai and Zhuang Bufan met palms with one another, as they stood staring into each other's eyes, and literal sparks exploded between them. The place where the two stood had become a mass of chaotic source qi, with one half filled with golden light while the other a white radiance, the two colors battering against one another, each one trying to overwhelm the other. Time seemed to stand still at that moment. He can compete with senior brother Zhuang's raw source qi? Is he really a first-order Dao source realm? Could he be some third-order Dao source realm playing the pig to eat a tiger? Whatever the truth, it doesn't matter. Senior brother Zhuang will tidy him up soon enough. While the disciples from Orthodoxy Temple were dazzled, they did not forget to comment on the strange situation before them. But things did not develop as any of them expected. Zhuang Bufan did not knock Yang Kai back in short order, and instead, the two remained anchored in place as they continued to madly push their source qi in an attempt to suppress one another. As time passed, Zhuang Bufan's expression became more and more serious while Yang Kai's look became more and more ferocious. Only now did Zhuang Bufan realize that the reason Yang Kai had bothered trying hard to explain. It was not because he was afraid of him, but rather because he really didn't want to fight if it could be avoided. Just as Yang Kai had said, while Zhuang Bufan only had one enemy, he had many. As long as Yang Kai wanted to protect this immature spirit flower, he would need to face every master that came here coveting it, including the likes of Wu Chong, Xiao Chun, and Lan Sun. It was for this reason Yang Kai had chosen a source qi competition to force the battle to quickly end. By doing this, the outcome would quickly and definitively be decided. No secret techniques or artifacts could be used in this kind of confrontation. The only thing one could rely on was their own endurance and cultivation. Looking into the eyes right in front of him that seemed to be filled with a kind of madness, Zhuang Bufan knew that, in a certain sense, he had already lost, because the one standing before him, competing with him in terms of raw source qi, was two minor realms lower than him in cultivation. If Zhuang Bufan had suppressed his cultivation to the same level as this crazy kid, there wouldn't even have been a point in fighting. To think that there's such a monster in this world. Zhuang Bufan was thoroughly shocked. At a certain moment, the delicate balance was suddenly broken, and under the shocked gazes of the Orthodoxy Temple disciples, the golden glow began to advance and slowly overtake the white light. How can this be? Senior brother Zhuang is being suppressed? Where did this boy come from? No, it must be that senior brother Zhuang is showing mercy. Senior brother has always been benevolent and righteous. Yes, that must be it. Even if they saw it with their own eyes, none of them could believe that Zhuang Bufan had fallen into a disadvantage in a battle of source qi. The impact of this scene caused great storms to set off in all of their hearts, making it impossible for them to recover their composure in short order. But even so, none of them tried to step forward to help, all of them standing back and watching solemnly from afar. Firstly, outsiders really could not interfere in this kind of competition, as any outside disruption now would only result in both sides suffering serious losses. Secondly, Zhuang Bufan had already declared that none of them were to intervene. The words of their eldest senior brother carried immense weight, and none of them dared to disobey them. "Brother Zhuang, surrender!" Yang Kai's voice suddenly called out, and accompanied by his words, the dazzling golden light bursting from his body grew stronger again, further suppressing the white light of Zhuang Bufan. "If you do not withdraw, you'll only injure yourself." In the face of Yang Kai's persuasion, Zhuang Bufan turned a deaf ear, and his perpetually calm face took on a hint of madness as he roared. In this Zhuang's world, the word surrender does not exist. "Fine then," Yang Kai shouted as his golden light shone even brighter, and at the same time, his figure shook and source chi erupted even more fiercely from his body. "Since that's the case, I will respond in kind." With a thunderous eruption, the golden light completely suppressed the white aura and swallowed it up, causing the already deep pit where Zhuang Bufan stood to enlarge rapidly, sending rock and earth flying along with an explosion of wind and light. From this dazzling light, a figure suddenly shot out and stood steadily in the void, panting heavily, covered in blood. The several Orthodoxy temple disciples stared forward, their hearts filled with shock. Although they couldn't see who was standing mid-air, they were able to infer from this person's posture and the residual source chi around them that it was Yang Kai. Turning their gazes back to the giant crater, they next saw Zhuang Bufan kneeling on one knee, his clothes shredded and his hair a mess as blood dripped from all over his body, an extremely miserable sight to behold. "Senior brother Zhuang," all of them shouted. Zhuang Bufan seemed to not even have the strength to respond to them and simply held his stance, his body trembling unceasingly. Only after a long pause did he manage to stagger to his feet and lift his head towards Yang Kai, his gaze filled with many complicated emotions. "It was an honor." Yang Kai cupped his fists and quickly said. Zhuang Bufan did not reply and instead sat down cross-legged directly before wiping his space ring and taking out a number of pills, stuffing them into his mouth, and entering a state of meditation to adjust his breathing. Seeing this, the disciples of Orthodoxy Temple immediately shot flame-filled gazes towards Yang Kai, but in addition to anger, there was also a strong shock and even fear in their eyes, because just now Yang Kai, a first-order Dao Source Realm cultivator, had defeated their senior brother Zhuang Bufan in a competition of Source Chi right in front of them. Even though the final outcome seemed to be a loss for both sides, victory was still victory. Had this unknown young man really just done this? Had their senior brother Zhuang actually lost to him in the domain he was most proud of? If it had been Xiaxia or Wuchang here instead, would they have been able to achieve such a result? All kinds of thoughts flashed across the minds of these disciples, but one thing remained consistent. None of them dared to underestimate Yang Kai now. In their eyes, Yang Kai was already an existence that could stand on par with Zhuang Bufan. In fact, this young man was even more terrifying than their eldest senior brother, because right now, he was just in the first-order Dao Source Realm. If this young man reached the third order in this world, would there be any Dao Source Realm cultivator who could be his opponent? Perhaps this young man would be a bright new star in the star boundary, one that would one day rise and become the most dazzling nova in the star boundary. On the other side, Yang Kai also slowly landed and sat down cross-legged, taking a number of pills out of his space ring and stuffing them into his mouth. Although his situation seemed to be much better than Zhuang Bufan's in that he only needed to restore himself somewhat. After such an intense battle, he needed to quickly recover in order to cope with whatever troubles may arise next. As for Zhuang Bufan, Yang Kai figured he would not try to fight with him anymore. This man was honest and upright, so since he had been defeated in a fair battle, he would definitely not covet the extraordinary treasure lotus anymore. Regarding this point, Yang Kai was quite confident. "Oh!" Suddenly, a cry sounded from nearby and a figure appeared. This newcomer swept their gaze around and laughed casually. "I was wondering who was raising so much ruckus, but it turns out to be you too." Hearing this voice, Yang Kai immediately opened his eyes and flashed a faint smile as he slowly called out, "So, the second one to arrive was you, Brother Xia." He didn't need to look over to know that the one who had arrived was Xiaxia. At that moment, Yang Kai couldn't help but relax slightly. He was really afraid that Wuchang would suddenly appear at this time because he still needed some time to recover. If Wuchang really had come, things would have become a bit troublesome. But Xiaoshang was different. No matter the case, he at least knew Yang Kai, so the situation wouldn't become too messy. If it's not me, who else could it be? Xiaoshang smiled slightly and said, seeing that the exit is about to close. This Xia wanted to arrive first to wait for his junior brothers and junior sisters in order to go back together, but I didn't expect to suddenly see a heavenly manifestation here as well as a big fight. I flew over to join the fun, but... As he spoke, his eyes narrowed slightly as he quickly said, it seems that the battle between the two is already over and was quite fierce. His tone was filled with undisguisable shock, because he hadn't expected that Yang Kai's strength was actually on par with Zhuang Bufan. Before, although he had thought highly of Yang Kai, Xiaoshang had still felt there was a big gap between Yang Kai and characters like himself. Only a few people could stand on par with him, but among those few, Zhuang Bufan was definitely one. Yet now, it seemed Yang Kai had the ability to fight Zhuang Bufan on even terms, a shocking reality. Although he didn't know who had the upper hand in the battle just now, the aftermath he was observing was enough for him to infer Yang Kai's strength, and it made him realize he had greatly underestimated him before. As Xiaoshang spoke, his gaze turned to the extraordinary treasure lotus, and his eyes lit up as he thought aloud, Hua, this must be something good. Xiao Bai, do you know what it is? His last words were obviously addressed to Xiao Bai, who had followed behind immediately. It was unclear when the two of them had met up, but clearly, they had at some point, and now they appeared together with Murong Xiao. I don't know. I've never seen anything like it before. Xiao Bai stood nearby and spoke concisely. I don't know either. Before Xiaoshang asked her, Murong Xiao took the initiative to answer. Xiaoshang shrugged helplessly before his eyes glanced between Yang Kai and Zhuang Bufan, a sly grin appearing on his face as he said, if nobody knows, then we can just swallow it and find out. And which one of you discovered this thing first? Before Yang Kai could even speak, Zhuang Bufan, who had apparently recovered a bit of strength, said, when this Zhuang came here, Brother Yang was already defending this place, and it seems he expelled a number of others already. Brother Yang found it first? Xiaoshang raised his brow and muttered softly, then this is somewhat difficult. If Brother Zhuang found it first, it wouldn't be a big deal to just snatch it. But since Brother Yang found it first... Although Brother Yang is not the disciple of my Azure Sun Temple, we did come here together. If I just snatch it now, it would be a bit awkward. Yang Kai's face went black as he snapped, Brother Xia, I can hear everything you're saying. Xiaoshang came back to himself at that moment and laughed. It's fine. It's fine. I wasn't trying to hide anything anyways. Brother Yang, how about we discuss this? Whatever this thing is, would asking to split it half and half be excessive? It would. Yang Kai replied solemnly. Then I'll just have to snatch it. Xiaoshang replied solemnly. Yang Kai glanced at him before saying blankly, Brother Xia is free to act. Why you? Xiaoshang looked at him helplessly and smiled bitterly. Why are you so sure I won't just do that? Yang Kai grinned meaningfully and was about to answer when suddenly he frowned and turned his eyes towards the horizon as he muttered, why have so many people appeared already? At the edge of his perception, in all directions, many cultivators were approaching, obviously all attracted by the heavenly manifestation here. With an awkward expression on his face, Yang Kai asked blankly, aren't there 2 days before the entrance appears? With so much time left, why has everyone suddenly come back? Right, you wouldn't know about this? Xiaoshang shook his head and explained. There is an unwritten rule that every time the 4 Seasons realm opens, all the disciples from the various sects will return to the exit 2 days before it closes in order to exchange information and treasures. Counting the days, it's just about time for everyone to return. There's such a tradition? Yang Kai looked surprised. Otherwise, why do you think we came here so early? Xiao Bai glanced at Yang Kai faintly. Seems your troubles just got bigger. Yang Kai had a bitter face as he nodded in agreement. Indeed, he had thought that there were still 2 days before the exit closed. So even if the heavenly manifestation was quite eye-catching, it wouldn't attract too many people. and when the extraordinary treasure lotus matured tomorrow, the phenomena would naturally disappear. But it seemed like Yang Kai's plans would not come to fruition. Now that so many people were approaching, once a fight broke out, the situation would grow beyond his ability to control. Even though Yang Kai was confident in his strength, in the end, 2 fists can't block 4 strikes. In just a few breaths, accompanied by the sound of rushing wind, one cultivator after another appeared in the surroundings, and all of them stared towards the extraordinary treasure lotus with surprise and greed. But at this moment, Zhuang Bufan and Xiaxiang were standing closest to this treasure, so no one dared to run up and try to snatch it. However, many were exchanging glances with their neighbors and allies, clearly forming their own plans. Seeing this, Xiao Baiyi snickered. Suddenly, Xiaxiang's brow furrowed as his expression turned serious, and he quickly said, "Brother Yang, you'd best prepare yourself. A troublesome one is approaching." As soon as he spoke those words, from the horizon, a familiar roar reached Yang Kai's ears. "Don't let me catch you, or I'll make you taste the world's most terrible torture." There was endless anger and murderous intent in this voice, and when it sounded, all who heard it couldn't help feeling a terrifying chill. "Wu Chang," someone muttered as they recognized the owner of this voice. With just this one shout, many cultivators began to show fear and anxiety. It could be seen that even amongst the Southern Territory's countless young rising stars, Wu Chang's presence had a particularly strong deterrent. However, Wu Chang's words were also quite puzzling, and many wondered just who he was chasing. From the words he spoke and the anger with which he spoke them, it seemed Wu Chang had been pursuing whoever it was for some time now. "Ha ha ha, idiot. You should just follow behind Father's butt and eat his dust forever. With your rubbish ability, you won't catch Father here even if you chase me for the rest of your life." Another voice sounded, one that was extremely arrogant, not only calling himself Father in front of Wu Chang, but even going so far as to mock the latter as well. The group gathered atop the mountain were all shocked and turned their heads to stare in the direction the two were approaching from, watching as this pair rapidly drew closer. Gong Wenshan. Yang Kai saw at a glance who the escaping party was. It turned out to be the array master Gong Wenshan. In an instant, Yang Kai understood what the situation was. In front of the flowing time temple, Gong Wenshan and Wu Chang had formed a slight grudge, because after Gong Wenshan cracked the barrier around the flowing time temple's entrance, he had actually rigged it to prevent Wu Chang's entry, denying him this opportunity. Wu Chang had also acted extremely decisively at the time, immediately deciding to depart after he realized he could not enter the flowing time temple. Afterwards, whether he had been waiting in the Two Seasons mountain range for Gong Wenshan to come out, or had coincidentally come across him at some point, Wu Chang naturally was not planning to let Gong Wenshan off and had obviously chased after him to settle their grievances. However, it seemed that even with his great strength, Wu Chang was unable to take down Gong Wenshan easily and had instead been chasing him all this time. Just as Yang Kai's thoughts churned, Gong Wenshan passed over everyone's heads and with a solemn expression took out a few slips of jade from his space ring, muttered something, and poured out his source chi, causing the pieces of jade to fly out and swiftly disappear. At the same time, where Gong Wenshan stood, a strange and threatening aura suddenly appeared, one that was invisible but could still clearly be felt. "Array plates!" someone from the crowd shouted. Although no one knew what kind of array plates Gong Wenshan had set up just now, just seeing him deploy 4 of them at once without even batting an eye showed how rich his background was. This was only to be expected from the disciples of a family famed for its spirit arrays though. Gong Wenshan clearly had access to treasures like array plates which ordinary cultivators could never get their hands on. After arranging the array plates, Gong Wenshan stood in place and gasped, taking out a few pills from his space ring and swallowing them. Seeing him like this, it was clear that he had been pursued by Wu Chang for quite a few days and had consumed a lot of his strength. After arriving here though, he had taken out his array plates for protection and began restoring himself. Wu Chang followed close behind and landed a couple dozen meters in front of Gong Wenshan, his eyes nearly spitting fire as his source chi pulsed madly from his body, along with unparalleled violence and murderous intent, ensuring no one got close. When the cultivators with lower cultivation felt this violent aura, they couldn't help turning somewhat pale with fright. "Come out!" Wuchang was furious, but he was not a fool. With Gong Wenshan summoning so many array plates in front of him and then just standing in place, it was obvious the latter had full confidence in his safety, so Wuchang didn't dare to rush over and could only shout from close by. "You come in!" Gong Wenshan taunted mockingly as he gestured lightly towards Wuchang, like someone inviting an old friend into their home. "If you have any guts, come out and face me," Wuchang yelled. "If you have any, come in," Gong Wenshan responded. "You come out. You come in." War. Wuchang let out a mad roar. His enemy was right in front of him, but despite his great strength, he had no way to take him. What's worse, this scene was actually taking place in front of so many people, so how could Wuchang not feel humiliated? As he roared, two beams of light, one red, one white, suddenly rose into the sky from his body, and like two flood dragons, they entwined with one another as they broke through the clouds before spinning rapidly and falling down like a meteor towards where Gong Wenshan stood. He had obviously lost the patience to verbally spar with Gong Wenshan and attacked in anger. Seeing this, Gong Wenshan's expression remained unchanged as a light grin appeared on his face. With the wave of his hand, a thick and solid-looking light curtain appeared 10 meters in front of him. Hong long long, the red and white energy blast impacted the center of the light curtain, causing it to bend slightly, but it quickly bounced back. Not only that, when it restored itself, the light curtain randomly scattered Wuchang's violent attack in all directions. "Gong Wenshan, you waste! Bite me then! You bastard!" The group of onlookers who had been watching this strange confrontation saw the fierce energy attack fly towards them and cursed under their breaths as they scattered and dodged. None of them dared to scold Wuchang, but Gong Wenshan received plenty of hatred. At the same time, Yang Kai also wore a cold expression as he could no longer afford to focus on healing himself, stood up, and stretched out his hand. In that instant, in the space in front of him, a dark black hole appeared, one filled with chaotic nothingness, like the mouth of a great beast, swallowing up all the wandering energy blasts. "Brother Gong, please have some discretion." Yang Kai glared at Gong Wenshan coldly. If he hadn't made a move just now, the scattered red and white energy blasts would definitely have struck the extraordinary treasure lotus, causing this precious treasure to instantly be destroyed. He didn't know whether Gong Wenshan had done this intentionally or unintentionally, but his approach obviously made Yang Kai very unhappy. "You dare interfere?" Suddenly, Wuchang shouted, turning his head coldly towards Yang Kai, a thick murderous intent flashing from his eyes. Yang Kai frowned and snapped back. "Has Brother Wuchang lost his mind? Did you not just see what happened?" He didn't know what Wuchang was on about now. Perhaps because he had no way to take Gong Wenshan, he was planning to attack someone else to gain back some face, or perhaps he was just looking for someone to vent his frustration on. Whatever the case, after everyone resisted the reflected energy attacks, they could tell there was something wrong with Wuchang. "I don't care. Whoever dares to interfere, I want them dead," Wuchang replied domineeringly. "If you don't want to die, scram." As soon as this remark came out, some people actually began to distance themselves. "Ha! Wuchang!" Xianxia grinned suddenly as he shot him a sarcastic look. "If you want this spirit flower, just say it directly. Why put on such an act? Do you think by making such threats you can scare off everyone else and give yourself an easier time when you try to snatch it later?" Hearing this, Yang Kai's face darkened, and when he looked at Wuchang carefully, he suddenly found that although this guy's face seemed full of rage, his eyes were actually extremely calm. Perhaps, as Xiaosheng said, the reason why he was acting so unreasonable all of a sudden was because he had his eyes on the extraordinary treasure lotus from the start. This guy was quite the schemer. Most likely, he had already turned his attention to the extraordinary treasure lotus after arriving here. After all, revenge could be obtained at any point, but such a precious spirit flower was not something that could be missed. Wu Chang's angry expression became calm in an instant, and he glanced at Xiaosheng lightly. "Do you think you're so smart?" Xiaosheng sneered. "Smarter than someone pretending to be crazy at least. Humph, since I was exposed by you, I don't need to waste any more effort. I can just seize this spirit flower." Saying so, Wu Chang's body flickered as he tried to rush towards the extraordinary treasure lotus. But at that moment, a clear and sweet voice suddenly sounded, "Brother Wu Chang, please wait. You must not touch that spirit flower." After hearing this voice, Wu Chang stopped in place, and Yang Kai, who had been pushing his source qi, also relaxed slightly. He was prepared to fight Wu Chang, but if there was someone who could stop him from acting instead, Yang Kai wouldn't have any objections. Wu Chang was unruly and rebellious, so basically no one could make him obey their words. In fact, in the entire Four Seasons realm, there was only one person he needed to give face to, the jewel of the bright moon great emperor, Princess Lan Sun. So as soon as Lan Sun spoke, Wu Chang halted, turned his head, and stared in the direction her voice came from before he asked, "Your Highness, you'd best have a reasonable explanation." His implication was obviously that if her explanation couldn't satisfy him, he wouldn't give her any face. "Humph. You dare use that kind of tone with the princess? You must court death." Where Lan Sun appeared, Xiao Chun would naturally follow, so this time was naturally no exception. Along with this low shout, a man and a woman descended from the sky. The woman had bright eyes and a dazzling smile that adorned her enchanting face. The man had a majestic and noble appearance. Who else could they be besides the pair from Star Soul Palace? Lan Sun was as beautiful as a bright moon, so even without mentioning her status, her appearance alone was enough to drive men to madness. Wherever she went, she would become the sole focus of the crowd. It was the same even now, as the countless cultivators gathered all cast their eyes towards her in awe and wonder. Lan Sun seemed to have become accustomed to such scenes and did not pay it any mind. On the other hand, Xiao Chun glared around at everyone while unleashing an oppressive aura to make the surrounding men withdraw their gazes. Brother Wu Chang wanting an explanation is only natural. Lan Sun first glanced at the extraordinary treasure lotus before turning to address Wu Chang. "Speak," Wu Chang said with a cold face. Lan Sun didn't mind his rudeness and simply smiled as she explained, "Is there an expert present who recognizes this spirit flower?" Xiaxing shrugged and said, "I don't recognize it." Most people also shook their heads, giving complete deference to Lan Sun. Zhuang Bufan, who was still adjusting his breathing, spoke lightly. "This Zhuang has a guess, but he is not certain. However, since the princess has spoken so, she must know something about this spirit flower. So this Zhuang will not show off meager skills before an expert and hopes Her Highness can dispel our doubts. Yes, if Your Highness knows something, please inform us. That vastness of Her Highness' knowledge is truly admirable. Her Highness is not only as beautiful as a flower, but is also extremely intelligent, possesses a gentle heart, and is not the slightest bit arrogant. It is truly a blessing for my southern territory." Lan Sun hadn't even revealed the answer yet, but the flattery poured out from all around. "All of you flatter me too much. I just happen to know a little something about this spirit flower. That is all." Lan Sun responded modestly, without any arrogance or complacency after being showered with praise, her tone calm and steady. At this point, her beautiful eyes turned to the budding lotus flower and with a solemn expression, she quickly said, "If I am not mistaken, this spirit flower is the extraordinary treasure lotus." Hearing this, Yang Kai raised his brow and couldn't help silently praising Lan Sun for her extraordinary breadth of knowledge. If he hadn't obtained Gong Sun Mu's jade slip, it would have been impossible for him to recognize the extraordinary treasure lotus. In this world, there weren't many who could recognize this kind of spirit flower or know its effects. "As I thought," Zhuang Bufan gently nodded to the side. It seemed that he too had guessed this before, but was uncertain until after he heard confirmation from Lan Sun. Among the crowd of onlookers, most still had blank expressions while only a few had drastic changes on their faces after hearing the words, "extraordinary treasure lotus," apparently having at least some knowledge about it. "Princess, what exactly is this extraordinary treasure lotus good for? Can we eat it?" Xiaxing suddenly asked with a smile on his face. "You moron!" To the side, Xiao Bai face-palmed as he shook his head. Ashamed of Xiaxing outburst as he muttered, If you don't know anything, don't speak. The temple's face is always being completely lost by your shamelessness. Murong Xiao also blushed and nodded vigorously, seemingly trying to distance herself from Xiaoshang. The performance of their eldest senior brother really embarrassed the two of them. Xiao Bai, do you know something? Xiaoshang immediately turned his head towards Xiao Bai before clapping his hands. Right, in the temple, you would always read a lot of old books, so maybe you do know something. Quickly tell me about this. What was it? Extraordinary treasure lotus. Right, what kind of mythical effects does it have? Xiao Bai stared at him fixedly before taking a deep breath to calm his mood and slowly speaking. The extraordinary treasure lotus is born from the pure essence of the sun, moon, and earth, a supreme treasure that appears only randomly throughout history in all different kinds of environments. There are no specific conditions for its appearance or growth, and it can appear anywhere, whether there is rich world energy or none at all. However, in this world there will only ever be a single extraordinary treasure lotus in existence at any one time. If one appears, another will not appear until the first disappears. Upon hearing this, Xiaoshang couldn't help blowing a whistle as he said in surprise, "It's really precious then?" Xiao Bai ignored him and continued, "As for its function, it has an astonishing benefit for cultivators like us. It can permanently increase the chances of one breaking through to the Emperor realm without any side effects or drawbacks. In other words, if you, Wu Chang or Brother Zhuang, were to refine this extraordinary treasure lotus, you would be able to break through to the Emperor realm in less than 5 years. As for someone like me, 10 years would suffice. I am here as well." Xiao Chun was ignored by Xiao Bai and clearly felt unpleasant. Xia Shang, however, just grinned and said, "Even without this thing, I can still break through to the Emperor realm. It doesn't seem that precious to me." "What do you know?" Xiao Bai glanced at him coldly. "Throughout the ages, countless geniuses like you have tried to break through to the Emperor realm, only to fail at the last moment or become stuck at the final hurdle, unable to cross it for the rest of their lives. Furthermore, in this world, no one dares to claim that they can absolutely break through to the Emperor realm, and those who do often end up failing. Of course, there are others out there who have lesser aptitude and talent, but through pure hard work and effort manage to reach the Emperor realm. But to all cultivators like us, the extraordinary treasure lotus is akin to a guarantee of breaking through to the Emperor realm." When Xiaoshang heard Xiao Bai's explanation, he couldn't find anything to object about and immediately sank into contemplation. All around, the cultivators who were watching and waiting heard Xiao Bai's explanation and showed fiery looks on their faces. They now looked at this extraordinary treasure lotus not as some special spirit flower, but as a broad and clear path to the Emperor realm. The cultivators that entered the Four Seasons realm were all in the Tao Source realm, and many of them had reached the Third Order. These cultivators were just a few steps away from the Emperor realm, so with such a huge opportunity appearing before them, how could they not be tempted? If it weren't for the top sex masters all standing by acting as a deterrent, someone by now would not have been able to hold back and run up to snatch this lotus, leading to this mountaintop turning into a chaotic battlefield filled with blood. In front of such a precious spirit flower, no one would be able to keep their calm. Once greed took over, even fellow brothers from the same force would trample each other to obtain this prize. I understand the preciousness and purpose of this extraordinary treasure lotus now, but Princess has yet to explain why she prevented me from obtaining it just now." Wu Chang suddenly said coldly, seemingly still hung up on the fact that Lan Xun had stopped him from touching it a moment ago and demanding a satisfactory explanation. Lan Xun smiled slightly and said, "Brother Xiao Bai has already explained much, so junior sister will be succinct." On the other side, Xiao Bai's mouth twitched as he felt a deep sadness in his heart, thinking that the name Xiao Bai could not be erased for a lifetime. Even someone as famous and respected as Princess Lan Xun was now calling him by that name, so it was basically set in stone. With tears forming at the corners of his eyes, Xiao Bai lifted his head towards the heavens and silently asked just what he had done to deserve such a cruel fate. Meanwhile, Lan Xun continued to speak. "Although the extraordinary treasure lotus is extremely precious, it is fundamentally still just a spirit flower, so it is quite delicate and fragile. Right now, this extraordinary treasure lotus has yet to mature, so its medicinal efficacies have not yet fermented. If Brother Wu Chang had rashly picked it just now, its medicinal properties would definitely be greatly damaged and it would lose all of its heaven-defying effects. I believe Brother Wu Chang would not want to see that happen, right? With her last sentence, she turned to Wu Chang with a smile and asked. Wu Chang heard this and responded in a cold, flat tone. Since your highness has said so, I will wait, but I must ask, how long will it be until this extraordinary treasure lotus fully matures? Lan Xun went silent for a while as she observed the extraordinary treasure lotus before saying, It should be a day or so, just before the exit closes. Wu Chang muttered to himself before immediately shouting, Fine, then I will wait until then. Before the time comes, if anyone dares have ideas about this extraordinary treasure lotus idea, don't blame this Wu for not showing mercy. As he spoke, he turned his gaze around, a strange red and white light flashing from his eyes, causing those who met them to shudder. Hearing this, Yang Kai couldn't help breathing a sigh of relief. Although Wu Chang wanted to take the extraordinary treasure lotus for himself, his declaration just now had also calmed all the waves and guaranteed that before the spirit flower matured, no one would act recklessly. As for afterwards, everyone would need to rely on their own methods in the scramble for the prize. Junior sister would also like to request everyone wait until after this extraordinary treasure lotus matures before asking. Lan Xun said sternly. I should also inform everyone that, after this extraordinary treasure lotus does mature, if it is not consumed within 3 hours, or refined into a pill, its medicinal efficacies will pass completely. Is that true? Wu Chang frowned. The extraordinary treasure lotus is a heaven-defying treasure after all. So with such effects, the heavenly way puts appropriate constraints on its birth and life. Lan Xun smiled slightly. Then it's simple. When it matures, I just need to eat it. Xiaxing grinned. Xiao Bai turned his head, glanced at him coldly and snapped. Why is it all you can talk about today is eating? Xiaxing scratched his cheek awkwardly. Lan Xun suddenly sighed again and said, If possible, it would be best to refine it into an extraordinary treasure pill. There's only one spirit flower, and in the scramble to follow, swords and fists have no eyes. She was the daughter of Bright Moon Great Emperor, so in many situations, she needed to consider things not just from her own perspective, but from the perspective of the entire Southern Territory. Similar to when she took away the pseudo-emperor artifact from the Flowing Time Temple despite it being the least valuable treasure for her. At this moment, although she was delighted that an extraordinary treasure lotus had appeared in the Four Seasons realm, she was also racked with worry about the battle which it would surely set off. Everyone present here was an elite among the Southern Territory's Dao Source Realm cultivators, and heavy casualties due to the fight for this spirit flower would definitely be a major loss for the Southern Territory. Princess must be joking. If you want to refine such a heaven-defying spirit flower into pills, surely it would require an emperor-grade alchemist. According to the princess, this spirit flower must either be swallowed or used in alchemy within 3 hours after it matures. How could that be enough time to find an appropriate emperor-grade alchemist? Wu Chang coldly snorted. Lan Xun shook her head though and said, An emperor-grade alchemist is unnecessary. A Dao Source Grade 1 would be sufficient. But we are all cultivators who have focused on the martial Dao, so how could we have had time to delve into the alchemic Dao? A Dao Source Grade alchemist is still not easy to find. She shook her head and smiled bitterly, secretly feeling a little headache. She felt that the current crisis could not be resolved, and that a great opportunity was about to be missed. There was only one spirit flower, so only one person could take it, but if it could be refined into pills, it would be a completely different story. At that moment, a voice suddenly sounded, If your highness is willing to trust me, how about letting me give it a try? As soon as these words came out, everyone looked startled and turned towards their source. Lan Xun also hurriedly turned her eyes, but after seeing who the speaker was, she couldn't help showing a surprised expression as she murmured, Brother Yang. You. Xiao Chun also looked at Yang Kai with a shocked expression, one that soon turned into a sneer. Do you know what you're talking about? What the princess said just now. Did you not hear it clearly? Naturally, I heard her clearly. Yang Kai smiled slightly, still calm and relaxed under the attention of the crowd. The cross-legged Zhuang Bufan also looked over at Yang Kai at this moment with a thoughtful look on his face. Xiaxia suddenly stretched out his hand to pull at the corner of Yang Kai's clothes as he whispered in a low voice. Brother Yang, I don't think this is a good idea. If you really want to monopolize the extraordinary treasure lotus, you might as well think of another way. Pretending to be a Dao source-grade alchemist won't help you in any way. He obviously thought that Yang Kai was lying in order to gain some kind of initiative in the coming battle, so he hurriedly whispered to persuade him, otherwise, he would not just lose face but would also become the target of public criticism. Once that happened, no one would be able to save him. Although Xiaxiang's words were light, everyone present was a master, so they could clearly hear what was said. For a time, everyone glared at Yang Kai, thinking that he was both despicable and shameful, even daring to use such open intrigue. I'm not simply bluffing. Yang Kai smiled confidently and said proudly, I am a Dao source-grade alchemist. As soon as these words came out, everyone stopped talking and stared at Yang Kai with even stranger expressions. The scene so quiet that even the light breeze could be heard. Ha ha ha! After a long time, a burst of loud laughter rang out as Xiao Chun pointed to Yang Kai and said contemptuously, You, a Dao source-grade alchemist? What do you think alchemists are? Random people you can just grab off the street? Boy, you'd best think carefully before spewing such nonsense, or misfortune will befall you. Saying so, he did not even try to hide the contempt in his eyes, despising Yang Kai ferociously. Oh? It seems that Brother Xiao is quite familiar with me. Yang Kai tilted his head and looked at Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun coldly snorted and said, If it weren't for our little meeting in this Four Seasons realm, how could this Xiao possibly recognize some unknown person like you? He didn't put Yang Kai in his eyes at all. Indeed, Yang Kai smiled slightly and said, Since Brother Xiao doesn't know anything about me, why are you so confident that I am not a Dao source-grade alchemist? Your logic is so strange. This? Xiao Qin frowned as he didn't have a good retort, but soon insisted. In any case, someone like you can't be a Dao source-grade alchemist. If you just want to fish in troubled waters, this Xiao advises you to dismiss such frivolous thoughts as soon as possible. Otherwise, humph. As soon as he finished speaking though, Zhuang Bufan suddenly opened his mouth and said, Brother Yang, you have been guarding this place since the beginning, ensuring that no one approached this extraordinary treasure lotus. Was that because you already knew what it was and what it was used for? Although he had just fought against Yang Kai, and even suffered a small loss at his hands, that did not lessen his good impression of Yang Kai. Just as Yang Kai thought Zhuang Bufan was an upright character, Zhuang Bufan also thought highly of Yang Kai, so at this time he deliberately tried to assist him by saying a few words. Oh! Hearing what Zhuang Bufan said, Lan Sun raised her delicate brow in surprise. Brother Zhuang means that Brother Yang had been guarding this place since before? And when I arrived, only Brother Yang was here. It seems that when this extraordinary treasure lotus first appeared, he was the first to arrive. Zhuang Bufan nodded lightly. Brother Yang is what Brother Zhuang said. Lan Sun looked at Yang Kai. Yes. Yang Kai gently nodded. When the extraordinary treasure lotus first appeared, I was nearby and the first to arrive. I also knew what it was and what its purpose was, so I stood guard by it to ensure those who were unable to judge its true value would not ruin it. Originally, I had wanted to guard it and then pick it when it matured before anything was the wiser. But I had not anticipated so many would return early, and that's what led to this situation. Having said so, Yang Kai gave a wry smile. Are you really an alchemist? Lan Sun's eyes flashed lightly. If he was not an alchemist, how could Yang Kai have accurately identified such a rare spirit flower like the extraordinary treasure lotus when even characters like Zhuang Bufan could only speculate about its identity? Only an extremely skilled and knowledgeable alchemist would be able to quickly identify the extraordinary treasure lotus. If Lan Sun had the same thoughts as Xiao Chun, that Yang Kai was faking being an alchemist, she would have said so. However, she was confident that what Yang Kai said was true. Yes. Yang Kai nodded sincerely. Are you really a Dao source-grade alchemist? Lan soon asked. I am. Unfortunately, some people don't believe me. Yang Kai spread his hands while his gaze swept across Xiao Chun intentionally. The latter couldn't help feeling sullen as he spat. Anyone can make outlandish claims. If this Xiao said he was an emperor-grade alchemist, would you believe it? Yang Kai shrugged his shoulders, looking helpless. Lan soon smiled and said, in that case, we can simply verify the truth with our own eyes. As long as Brother Yang can refine a furnace of Tao source-grade spirit pills here, all doubts can be resolved. There's still enough time for Brother Yang to refine a furnace of pills now, but I don't know what Brother Yang thinks. Before Yang Kai could respond, Xiao Chun cut in. How could he have the courage? If he really agreed, wouldn't his lies immediately be exposed? Lan Soon couldn't help glaring at Xiao Chun, causing his mouth to snap shut. Yang Kai frowned and said with a look of embarrassment, must we do this? Lan Soon smiled and said, is Brother Yang not confident in himself? Although I also believe Brother Yang is not one to speak such malicious lies, but this matter is too important to leave to chance. If Brother Yang doesn't have the ability to refine the extraordinary treasure pill, it will be best to not even try. Otherwise, it would simply be wasting heaven's precious gifts. What Her Highness says makes sense. Zhuang Bufan agreed. Although refining it into pills can increase the number of people who will benefit, if the spirit flower is ruined in the process, then the gains will not be worth the loss. In that case, it would be best to just wait until the spirit flower matures and then everyone will compete with their own means. Brother Yang, think carefully before you decide. He wanted to give Yang Kai an opportunity to back down, which was why he spoke up. But to his surprise, after Yang Kai pondered for a moment, he nodded. It's not a problem to prove myself. After all, everyone here does not trust me. You're really a Tao source-grade alchemist? Xiaoshang was shocked as he stared at Yang Kai like he was some kind of monster. As for Xiao Baiyi and Zhuang Bufan, they wore completely dumbfounded expressions, like they had just been smacked on the head. Only the two of them knew just how strong Yang Kai was. One of them had fought an all-out battle against Yang Kai, while the other had a source chi competition with him. Yang Kai had defeated both of them with just his first-order Tao source realm cultivation. With such cultivation, achieving such a feat was already incredibly astonishing. It was conceivable that Yang Kai had put in an enormous amount of effort into his cultivation, so how could he also have time to dabble in alchemy? What's more, becoming a Tao source-grade alchemist was not on the level of mere dabbling. Even if a person began cultivating in their mother's womb, reaching such heights in both the martial and alchemic Tao at such an age should be impossible. But from Yang Kai's tone and demeanor, it was quite clear he was indeed a Tao source-grade alchemist. This shocked Xiao Baiyi and Zhuang Bufan enormously. But, even if I prove that I am a Tao source-grade alchemist, I can't refine the extraordinary treasure pill. Yang Kai frowned. What do you mean? Lan Soon asked in surprise. Alchemy requires materials, does it not? Yang Kai looked at her and said, the extraordinary treasure pill requires a total of 19 kinds of herbs. I have been collecting the necessary materials for the past few days, but unfortunately, I have only managed to gather 18 of them. One is still missing. So, you were checking other people's space rings for the materials to refine the extraordinary treasure pill? A light went off in Zhuang Bufan's mind as he suddenly understood why Yang Kai had been snatching other people's space rings and searching for them. Rather than robbing them, Yang Kai had simply checked the space rings of his junior brother and junior sister, but returned them afterwards without taking anything. If robbing them wasn't his goal, then why bother acting this way in the first place? Only now did Zhuang Bufan understand. Realizing this, Zhuang Bufan no longer doubted Yang Kai's claims of being a Tao source-grade alchemist. If he wasn't searching for the materials for the extraordinary treasure pill, why would Yang Kai use such a detrimental method? He was probably forced to do this as he was trapped in the Four Seasons realm and the extraordinary treasure lotus was about to mature. This left him with no way to summon help and no way to leave its side. As such, he could only hope those who were attracted to the heavenly manifestation would have what he needed. This guy! Zhuang Bufan was shocked, but through incredible self-control managed to not show anything on his face. In that case, What ingredient is Brother Yang still lacking? If you don't mind, please inform us. With so many people present, perhaps someone will have what is necessary. Lan Xun smiled and asked, but after speaking, she seemed to suddenly realize something and immediately added, wait a moment, this alchemy material must be extremely precious, so even if someone has it, they may not be willing to contribute it. Yeah, what Princess said is the crux of the matter. Yang Kai nodded lightly. If anyone dares to refuse, we can just snatch it. Xiao Chun snorted coldly. Wu Chong sneered hearing this and snapped. Idiot. If others don't say they have it, how are you planning on snatching it? Do you want to snatch everyone's space ring and search them? Why not? Xiao Chun replied. Oh? So, if I want to check your space ring, would you hand it over to me? If I have that material, I will definitely contribute. There's no need to check. Xiao Chun replied solemnly. That's enough? Lan Xun frowned, waving her hand to interrupt him before taking a moment to think and then saying in a serious tone. I have a proposal, one that I believe will be able to resolve this matter. How about if someone has what Brother Yang needs? As long as they willingly contribute it, they will be entitled to take one of the extraordinary treasure pills after they are refined. Your Highness, is that really acceptable? Yang Kai was shocked. Everyone's expressions also changed dramatically, not having expected Lan Xun's suggestion to be so shocking. After all, even if Yang Kai was really a Dao source-grade alchemist and the refining was successful, how many spirit pills could be refined from one furnace of pills? Setting aside one in advance would no doubt make everyone quite reluctant. Lan Xun, however, just smiled lightly and said, in front of great opportunities, everyone is equal. Don't you men all like to gamble? Why are you shrinking back at this moment? As she spoke, she swept her beautiful eyes over everyone one by one. Brother Yang hasn't even said what herb he still needs. So what are you all afraid of? Perhaps the necessary spirit medicine is in your space ring, and all you need to do is contribute it to obtain an extraordinary treasure pill. It's nothing less than an incredible bargain. There's a chance you won't get anything as well. Xiao Bai muttered. If Yang Kai failed his refinement, then there really would be nothing to gain. But this Zhuang still has a question. Zhuang Bufan said. Brother Zhuang, please. Lan Xun looked at him with a smile. If 2 or more people have the final material Brother Yang needs, how should we resolve this issue? I had not thought about such a possibility. I was negligent. Lan Xun heard this and was startled for a moment, but soon she smiled again and said, it's simple then. If that happens, the one with the higher medicinal age will be used. Good idea. Zhuang Bufan nodded. The higher the medicinal age, the stronger the medicinal efficacies and the higher the chance for a successful refinement. If everyone is all right with this suggestion, then... Lan Xun smiled and looked around, waiting for a reply. I don't have any objections. Since it's a matter of luck, everyone has an equal chance. Finally, someone expressed their opinion, and to everyone's surprise, it was actually Wu Chong. He seemed to be quite interested in this proposal. Good. I like this proposal and don't have any objections. Xiaxing shrugged. I agree with the princess's suggestion. Zhuang Bufan also said. With these 3 taking a stand, no one else would dare raise any objections. What's more, Lan Xun was the one who made this proposal in the first place, so at this time, refusing to cooperate would be equivalent to slapping Lan Xun's face. Her Highness was gentle and understanding, but Xiao Chun standing beside her was not so friendly. Suddenly, everyone's opinion was unified, and all of them clamored on about how Lan Xun's proposal was perfect. Many thanks. Lan Xun saw that a consensus had been reached and turned a smile to Yang Kai. Brother Yang, please tell us what the last herb you need is. As soon as these words came out, everyone fell silent and looked towards Yang Kai, many people showing expression of expectation and nervousness. After all, this was all a matter of luck. Once Yang Kai reported the herb he required, as long as everything went right, there was a chance they could obtain an extraordinary treasure pill. This was a spirit pill that basically guaranteed one could reach the Emperor realm. Who wouldn't be anxious? Many people even felt their heartbeats pound in their chests. In front of everyone's eyes, Yang Kai slowly and clearly announced, I need a jade blood mushroom that has a medicinal age of at least 5,000 years. A jade blood mushroom, a rare herb. Lan Sun heard this and smiled as she looked around. Does anyone have what Brother Yang needs? If you can provide it, it will be equivalent to obtaining an extraordinary treasure pill, a rare opportunity one cannot hope to come across. From her words, it seemed like she had great confidence in Yang Kai, as if all one needed to do was present the required herb and Yang Kai would surely be able to refine the extraordinary treasure pill successfully. It was unknown where her confidence came from. As soon as her voice fell, many people immediately showed disappointed looks. Obviously, most knew they did not have anything like a jade blood mushroom. However, a few cultivators quickly immersed their minds in their space rings. Ha 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 ha! Suddenly, a loud laugh rang out. Everyone turned to look and saw a man with a second-order Dao Source Realm cultivation excitedly laughing. Noticing everyone now staring at him though, this man quickly composed himself and simply smiled widely, still unable to hide his joy but at least not coming off as obnoxious. Does this friend possess what was requested? Lan Sun looked at the man with a smile. The man quickly jumped out from where he stood and forcefully suppressing the joy and excitement in his heart. He replied with a serious face. Many thanks to Her Highness. This one truly possesses a jade blood mushroom. Oh! Lan Sun raised her brow and said happily. Please take it out so we may have a look. The man hesitated at this moment, but Lan Sun quickly realized what he was worried about and immediately said, You may rest assured. The words I spoke just now will not be taken back. If you really have the herb Brother Yang needs, one of the extraordinary treasure pills will be yours. Many thanks, Princess. The man was waiting for this guarantee from Lan Sun, so after hearing what he needed to, he didn't hesitate anymore and immediately took out a large green and red mushroom from his space ring. It's a jade blood mushroom. Yang Kai glanced over and knowing that the other party hadn't produced a fake, he quickly said, Please let me see it. The man held the jade blood mushroom in both hands and couldn't help trembling slightly. What he was holding was not just a simple spirit medicine, but rather his own good future, so he was extremely nervous about even slightly damaging it. When he came to Yang Kai, he carefully handed over the jade blood mushroom before standing back with an anxious look on his face. What dog shit luck! Why couldn't this opportunity have fallen into my hands? The heavens must be jealous. I am not convinced. Numerous voices filled with jealousy, anger, envy, and so on echoed about. As for the man who had produced the jade blood mushroom, these voices only sounded like sweet music to his ears, and he could not stop a smug expression from filling his face. This is indeed a jade blood mushroom. Suddenly, Yang Kai frowned and said, But its medicinal age is too low, only about 3,000 years, far from sufficient. What? The man heard this and his complexion changed drastically, his eyes widening as he stared at Yang Kai incoherently before haltingly stuttering. What did you? No, please take a clear look. There's no need to doubt. Yang Kai gave the jade blood mushroom back to the other party as he spoke confidently. Every 1,000 years, the color of the jade blood mushroom will change slightly, becoming deeper and more pronounced. This friend, although your jade blood mushroom can still be considered mature, and can be used to refine most spirit pills, it cannot be used in the extraordinary treasure pill. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Impossible! The man cried out in grief. The greater one's hopes were, the more disappointed they were when they fell through. This man had thought that an extraordinary treasure pill was within his grasp, but the plans of heavens are beyond what men can control. How could this man stand seeing this opportunity just slip through his fingers? Take another look. He stared at Yang Kai reluctantly. Yang Kai simply shook his head. If you can't believe me, you might as well ask someone else for confirmation. I believe there should be others here who can distinguish this herb's medicinal age. As he said so, Zhuang Bufan stepped forward. This one is Orthodoxy Temple's Zhuang Bufan, and although his knowledge of pharmacology is not on par with Brother Yang's, he still has some experience in this field. If you trust this Zhuang, you might as well let him perform an examination. Of course I trust you. The man heard this and immediately rushed over to Zhuang Bufan and handed over his jade blood mushroom. Compared with Yang Kai, an unknown person, Zhuangbu Fan's name resounded like thunder across the southern territory, so his words carried great authority. As such, this man did not hesitate to place his hopes on Zhuangbu Fan, hoping Zhuangbu Fan would be able to overturn Yang Kai's previous assessment. As this man stood back, Zhuangbu Fan began examining the jade blood mushroom carefully. Not only did he perform a visual inspection, but he also sniffed it deeply and even took a fine scrape of it and tasted it. His movements were methodical and extremely skillful, making it apparent he had performed such actions many times before. After a while, Zhuangbu Fan slowly shook his head, and while returning the jade blood mushroom to the other party, he said, "Brother Yang's knowledge of herbs is indeed much deeper than this Zhuang. Needing only a single look to tell its medicinal age, this Zhuang is most impressed. Friend, your jade blood mushroom is really only 3,000 years old. How can that be?" The man muttered to himself with a despondent look on his face. He could somewhat dismiss Yang Kai saying his jade blood mushroom only had a medicinal age of 3,000 years. But if Zhuangbu Fan was the one saying this, he had no choice but to accept. The cultivators who had previously been feeling extreme envy towards this man now couldn't help taking pleasure in his misfortune. There are so many people gathered here. Is there no other friend who possesses a jade blood mushroom? Yang Kai turned his head to look around while shouting loudly. No one responded. Yang Kai sighed. "Brother Yang, if you use this 3,000-year-old jade blood mushroom to refine..." Lan Sun frowned at him. "That is not possible." Yang Kai replied, "Princess, you must know that when refining extremely precious spirit pills, the demand on the adjuvant herbs is incredibly strict. Not to mention a difference of 2,000 years. Even if this jade blood mushroom was only 100 years too young, it would not be usable." "Ha!" Lan Sun sighed slightly. It wasn't that she didn't know what Yang Kai was saying was true. It was just that she was hoping it wasn't. "That's fate." Xianxia suddenly shook his head and said, "The jade blood mushroom is not a common spirit medicine, so it was already quite impressive that someone here possessed one. Since no one else has one, then it seems we can only fight it out for this lotus when the time comes." Actually, Lan Sun wore a slightly apologetic and helpless look. "I too have a jade blood mushroom, and it should meet Brother Yang's requirements." "Huh!" Xiao Chun was startled when he heard these words and said, "Why didn't you take it out just now then, Your Highness?" Yang Kai also looked towards Lan Sun in amazement, but quickly a thoughtful expression flashed across his face and he smiled before cupping his fists. This Yang deeply admires the princess's magnanimity. At that moment, he understood why Lan Sun hadn't taken out her own jade blood mushroom until now. It wasn't that she was reluctant to share it. She was the daughter of Bright Moon Great Emperor, so no matter how precious a spirit medicine was, could she really not bear to part with it? Her not stepping forward was all because she wanted to give this opportunity to someone else and had repeatedly asked if there was no other way just now. In the end, though, she was forced to come forward. She was also probably a bit embarrassed about the proposal she had made since she had the herb Yang Kai happened to need. No one present was a fool, so after listening to Yang Kai's words and a little thought, they realized what had happened, and for a moment, all of them couldn't help casting awe-filled and admiring gazes at Lan Sun. Lan Sun's cheeks went slightly red, making her look even more stunning. "I can contribute the jade blood mushroom, but as for the extraordinary treasure pill, I don't want it." Lan Sun pursed his red lips and said, "How can we accept that?" Xiao Chun was the first to jump out an object. "Silence!" Lan Sun frowned and snapped at him. "I have the right to deal with my own possessions." Xiao Chun opened his mouth but didn't dare to speak anymore, feeling quite suffocated as his face turned blue from mixed emotions. "Your Highness's words are inappropriate here?" Xiaxing smiled slightly and said, "Since everyone here reached an agreement before, Your Highness is more than entitled to this prize. If you were to reject this proposal now, it would be equivalent to everyone here owing Your Highness a heavy favor. Later, no one will know if the precious pill they received should have rightfully belonged to Your Highness. This kind of losing trade, this Xia does not want to participate in it." "Humph, Xiaxing, although your words sound cheap, I at least agree with your sentiment. This Wu Chong owes nothing to anyone. Not even to heaven. Wu Chang also expressed his agreement. Zhuang Bufan smiled. Your Highness, you should boldly claim what is yours. There is no need to refuse. Lan Sun didn't know whether to laugh or cry for a while. Yang Kai wiped the cold sweat from his brow as he commented. Listening to all of you, it's as if the furnace of extraordinary treasure pills will certainly succeed. If it does not, wouldn't that disappoint all the Princess Pains? Why are you not confident? Lan Sun raised her brow and asked. It's not a matter of confidence. Yang Kai smiled lightly. It's just, no alchemist can guarantee that he will succeed 100% of the time. Just in case I should ask, if the refinement fails, what will happen? We'll kill you. Wu Chang looked at him coldly. The pressure is big. Yang Kai wiped his forehead again. Lan Sun smiled and said, Put your best into it. As she spoke, she flew over and handed over her own jade blood mushroom to Yang Kai. Yang Kai accepted it and nodded after a brief inspection. Princess is right. This jade blood mushroom has a medicinal age of at least 8,000 years. Plenty for this purpose. What's more, from the slight traces on it, it appears it was not picked here in the Four Seasons realm. I found this a few years ago and it has been sitting in my space ring ever since, Lan Sun replied. All right then. Now all the materials have been gathered. Yang Kai quickly stored the jade blood mushroom into his space ring before glancing around and asking, Do you still want me to refine a furnace of Dao source-grade spirit pills to prove my abilities? Pausing here, he soon said, I shall say this first, I have no problem proving myself, but as all of you know, alchemy consumes a lot of energy. If I were to not be at my peak when the time comes to refine the extraordinary treasure pill, and the refining fails as a result, I won't take responsibility. After saying this, everyone frowned, because what Yang Kai said was indeed correct. If everyone insisted on him proving himself, he would need to refine a furnace of Dao source-grade spirit pills right now. But doing so would undoubtedly consume a lot of his source chi and spiritual energy. There was less than a day until the extraordinary treasure lotus matured. At that point, Yang Kai would need to refine another furnace of Dao source-grade spirit pills. In other words, he would need to perform 2 very difficult refinements within a single day. This kind of high-intensity alchemy would be quite taxing on any Dao source-grade alchemist. If Yang Kai was already exhausted when the time came, it would definitely have an impact on refining the extraordinary treasure pill. In my opinion, there's no need for that anymore. Lan Sun smiled lightly. The reason for the prior proposal was simply because we could not be certain Brother Yang was really an alchemist. But now, I believe that is no longer in doubt. If Brother Yang was not an alchemist, how could you have known the pill recipe for the extraordinary treasure pill, or be able to distinguish the medicinal age of jade blood mushrooms so quickly and accurately? What Her Highness says makes sense. Zhuang Bufan nodded. Just from the fact that Brother Yang had already begun preparing the appropriate alchemy materials before we arrived, there should be no doubt he is a Dao source-grade alchemist. Brother Yang, take a good rest. When the extraordinary treasure lotus matures tomorrow, act with a free hand. Since you've said so, I will focus on adjusting my condition. Yang Kai immediately took advantage of the situation and sat down, shutting his eyes tight. Although there were still some suspicious people, with Lan Sun and Zhuang Bufan speaking up for Yang Kai. Even if they had doubts in their hearts, they dared not speak them. Everyone could only wait for tomorrow to come, at which point everything would become clear. The scene suddenly quieted down. The cultivators who had gathered around looked for good spots before sitting down cross-legged to meditate while trying to restore their states to their peak. Because everyone understood clearly that if Yang Kai failed in his alchemy, he would be the only one to suffer everyone's anger and disappointment. But if he succeeded, aside from the one which would be reserved for Lan Sun, the remaining extraordinary treasure pills would need to be fought over. In front of such a huge opportunity, even if characters like Wu Chang, Xianxia, Zhuang Bufan, and Xiao Chun were present, no one would shrink back. If they missed this chance, many of them would never have an opportunity to break through to the Emperor realm for the rest of their lives. However, if they could just snatch one of the spirit pills, their chances of breaking through would increase dramatically. Therefore, everyone was resting and building up their strength. This caused the whole place to become oddly quiet. At the same time, A kind of blockade was set up all around Yang Kai and the extraordinary treasure lotus, preventing him from escaping. Wu Chang was particularly vigilant as he didn't even seem to rest. Instead just sat cross-legged and staring straight at Yang Kai, making sure he could react immediately should Yang Kai try anything. The invisible stalemate was the most important reason that everyone agreed to let Yang Kai refine the extraordinary treasure pill instead of just trying to snatch the extraordinary treasure lotus. There was only one extraordinary treasure lotus, and no one, not even Wu Chang, was confident they could obtain it. Rather than fight a battle they weren't certain they could win, it was better to let Yang Kai try to refine this lotus into pills, which, if successful, would multiply the number of opportunities they had to gain something. As for Yang Kai with his pitiful first-order Tao source realm cultivation, under the gaze of so many people, he couldn't run away after he finished his refinement. In this regard, everyone was confident, so they settled in and waited for the arrival of tomorrow, when Yang Kai would refine the extraordinary treasure pill. Senior brother, this situation is not good. After a break, Xiao Bai suddenly sent a divine sense message to Xiaosheng. I know. Xiaosheng responded calmly. Don't worry, I've made arrangements. When Brother Yang succeeds in his refinement tomorrow, we'll cooperate with him to cut open an escape route. The rest of our junior brothers and junior sisters will assist us from the outside. No wonder I didn't see anyone else coming. Are they all waiting at the exit? Xiao Bai asked without changing his expression. Xiaosheng grinned and replied, how can we allow a treasure like the extraordinary treasure pills fall into the hands of other sects? All we need to do now is get Brother Yang to cooperate. And what if he doesn't cooperate? Xiao Bai asked. Then knock him out and carry him off, Xiaosheng replied. Xiao Bai's face twitched as he lowered his head in shame. I'm not his opponent. Huh. Xiaosheng turned his head and stared at Xiao Bai in amazement, asking in surprise, Xiao Bai, since when did you become so unconfident? Brother Yang has indeed beat Shui, which is already quite amazing. Even if it was you or I doubt we would have been able to achieve the same with just his current cultivation, but right now, there should still be a big difference between us. If I didn't have a good reason, I wouldn't have made such an embarrassing statement. Xiao Bai suddenly turned serious. Huh. In the flowing time temple, I fought him, Xiao Bai said, and the result was my defeat. Are you cracking a joke with me? Xiaosheng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. How can I make such a shameful joke now? Xiao Bai said with a solemn face. Moreover, if I'm not mistaken, it's not just me who is not his opponent. Zhuang Bufan also isn't. Huh. You mean? After Xiaosheng asked, he immediately sent a thoughtful glance towards where Zhuang Bufan was and asked in amazement. You mean, before we arrived here when those two fought, Zhuang Bufan was the one who lost? Exactly. How could that be? Xiao Bai sneered. Nothing is impossible. Why else do you think Zhuang Bufan spoke up for Yang Kai so fervently? Xiaosheng frowned and said, you mean, Yang Kai showed mercy in their battle, so Zhuang Bufan? Could there be any other reason? Xiao Bai asked with a faint glance. See, Xiaosheng finally couldn't help drawing a sharp breath as he muttered. I knew those two fought, but I thought it was Yang Kai who was defeated. He's only a first-order Tao source realm. How could he possibly be that strong? How should I know? Would you have believed he was a Tao source-grade alchemist before? Do you even believe it now? Xiaosheng's face twitched as he shut his mouth. After a long silence, he focused his gaze and said, It's all right. I'll negotiate with Brother Yang, and I believe he'll cooperate. If he wants to survive, he shouldn't have any other choice. I hope. Xiao Bai responded, uncertain. As the pair from Azure Sun Temple secretly communicated, most of the other cultivators gathered were having similar exchanges. People who knew one another here were secretly forming alliances, preparing to confront the many powerful enemies around them. As for how to divvy up the extraordinary treasure pills after they succeeded, they could discuss that later. For most cultivators, the most important matter to consider was how to obtain the extraordinary treasure pills. Time passed slowly. Yang Kai focused on restoring himself. Refining the extraordinary treasure pill would be a real test for him, so regardless of anything else he wanted to be in peak condition. Even the slightest weakness may cause the refining to fail. Once the refining failed, he would become the target of everyone's anger, and even if he had great confidence in his abilities, escaping from such a siege would not be easy. The movements around him, the divine sense messages being passed back and forth, even Wu Chang's constant glares were unable to affect him, though as his mood gradually calmed down and he entered a type of ethereal state. Under such great pressure, he actually became unprecedentedly tranquil. A rich medicinal fragrance filled the air as halos of light continued to blossom. The heavenly manifestation became more and more apparent, filling the sky with colorful clouds that appeared and disappeared mysteriously. As for the white petals of the extraordinary treasure lotus, they bloomed gradually. At a certain moment, the world shook as the world energy in the surrounding region trembled. The heavenly manifestation contracted fiercely, sucking in a vast and terrifying amount of energy before it poured down from the sky like a funnel cloud into the extraordinary treasure lotus. The seemingly fragile spirit flower not only survived this intense infusion unscathed, but it also became even more radiant and vibrant as it did. Tiny runes suddenly appeared around the extraordinary treasure lotus, seemingly containing untold mysteries. Between the heavens and earth, faint celestial music resounded like morning bells and evening drums, shocking everyone present. Next, under all of the gathered eyes, the petals of the extraordinary treasure lotus finally bloom completely. A far richer medicinal fragrance filled the air, making all who sniffed it refreshed. This enticing scent caused many people to grow restless as well, and many couldn't wait to rush up and stuff this extraordinary treasure lotus into their bellies. As if their instincts were slowly consuming them, many cultivators showed greedy eyes as they stared towards the extraordinary treasure lotus, with a few even beginning to inch their way towards it. Anyone who dares to move, I will kill personally. Wu Chang suddenly shouted as he flashed a fierce expression. Murderous intent so thick it was tangible flared. The few who were just about to move instantly froze. They could clearly feel that if they dared to act rashly, they would find themselves dead the next moment. The aura of death was so stifling, it made their lips dry and their bodies turn cold. At that moment, Yang Kai opened his eyes and waved his hand. Come! As he spoke, the black jade furnace appeared. The black jade furnace was a Dao source-grade mid-rank alchemy furnace which Hanlang, the rogue disciple from Star Soul Palace, had won at an auction in Maplewood City, but in the end, Hanlang had died unexpectedly and this furnace had fallen into Yang Kai's hands. Such an alchemy furnace was a rare treasure, especially for alchemists. After all, above it, only emperor-grade alchemy furnaces were superior. But how could it be so easy to acquire an emperor-grade alchemy furnace? In general, emperor-grade alchemy furnaces were even rarer and more precious than emperor artifacts. When the black jade furnace's lid opened, a different fragrance from the extraordinary treasure lotus, gave off instantly spread. Seeing this alchemy furnace and smelling the fragrance that wafted from it, many people's expressions turned to shock while their confidence in Yang Kai immediately increased by leaps and bounds. Because no ordinary alchemist would be worthy of possessing such an alchemy furnace. Only a Dao source-grade alchemist would be qualified to be its owner. What's more, the strong pill fragrance which came from this alchemy furnace was proof it had been used to refine many herbs into pills. This served as proof that Yang Kai was a Dao source-grade alchemist. As soon as the alchemy furnace appeared, Yang Kai's divine sense surged, and hot, invisible conflagrated spiritual energy instantly poured into it, causing the black jade furnace to hum lightly. Lu Yen, Yang Kai whispered again, and with a flick of his wrist, a stream of light shot out from his palm. A loud chirping sound spread across the mountaintop as under everyone's gaze. A strange-looking firebird manifested in the sky before it plunged into the alchemy furnace. An artifact spirit. Lan Sun's beautiful eyes lit up as she couldn't help calling out in surprise. At that moment, although she had only caught a glimpse of Lu Yen, she instinctively sensed that this stream of red light was no small matter, and combined with the scene before her, she immediately deduced that it was a fire attribute artifact spirit. A Dao source-grade mid-rank alchemy furnace and a fire attribute artifact spirit. Such a combination of treasures was something most alchemists could only dream of. With the help of these two, an alchemist could achieve twice the result with half the effort when refining any spirit pill. Lan Sun couldn't help but smile and say, "If there are no accidents, Brother Yang should really be able to refine the extraordinary treasure pill. Everyone, please be patient and watch." Hearing what she said, many people's expressions lifted as looks of expectation filled their faces. At the center of everyone's attention, Yang Kai had already begun taking out the necessary herbs to refine the extraordinary treasure pill one by one with a solemn expression. Next, he methodically threw all kinds of rare herbs into the alchemy furnace as he formed different seals with his hands, his conflagrated spiritual energy surging and rolling, portraying various spirit arrays inside the furnace. As he acted, the heat in the alchemy furnace changed from time to time unpredictably. Alchemy required first and foremost a calm mind, and any kind of carelessness could lead to failure. Next, one's mastery of heat and the timing at which to add herbs was vital. These were no skills one could acquire overnight. It took years of accumulated experience to master these steps. Regarding the alchemic Tao, Yang Kai never had a formal teacher. However, he seemed to have an extraordinary aptitude and talent for this field. In his early years, he had used the true alchemic way left behind by great demon god to begin exploring the alchemic Tao. Later, he obtained the true alchemy enlightenment scripture from Yangyan's emperor garden. Then the jade slip left by Gong Sun Mu after coming to the star boundary. His alchemy techniques were a combination of these three inheritances as well as his own insights and innovations. He did not have a special constitution like Xianxia, who could perform alchemy as easily as if it were eating or breathing, but Yang Kai had his own unique comprehension. When to put in what kind of herb, what kind of heat to use, all these things had become so familiar to Yang Kai that he could almost perform them instinctually. If one wanted to name one specific reason for his current level of skill, it would undoubtedly be the Grand Alchemic Tao Tone Yang Kai had triggered years ago. The Grand Alchemic Tao Tone was a manifestation of the Heavenly Way. The Heavenly Way had directly imparted its knowledge to him, allowing his alchemy skills to obtain an unprecedented level of refinement. But even so, Yang Kai would still put his best whenever performing alchemy, not daring to show the slightest carelessness. There was only one extraordinary treasure lotus, and if this refining failed, there would be nothing left. If that happened, he would definitely have to bear the anger of everyone present. He wasn't afraid of that though, only that he would ruin this precious spirit flower in vain. Under such tremendous pressure, his condition actually reached its peak. Gulyalu. As time passed, the sound of something boiling emerged from the alchemy furnace, which was obviously a sign of the medicinal liquids being condensed. A complex yet sweet fragrance filled the world, one that was both invigorating and refreshing. Although Yang Kai's movements weren't particularly quick, there was a calmness to his gestures which made everyone feel confident in his abilities. In particular, his ability to smoothly manipulate his source chi to control the heat with one hand, while portraying spirit arrays inside the furnace with the other, amazed everyone. Laymen could only see the show, but experts were able to see the method. Of the cultivators present, almost all had never refined spirit pills before, but even if one had never eaten pork, they would still know what a pig was. Yang Kai's practice of changing spirit arrays repeatedly caused many to be confused, but also elicited admiration. Just his superb control over the various refinement elements was something no ordinary person could achieve, and was obviously the result of a massive amount of talent and practice. Senior brother, do you think junior brother Yang can succeed? Murong Xiao Xiao asked Xiao Bai softly. Before the results come out, no one would dare make an assertion, Xiao Bai replied, but after he said so, he glanced over and asked, "Why? Are you worried about what might happen if he fails?" Murong Xiao Xiao nodded. In this situation, if junior brother Yang really fails, I'm afraid it will be difficult for him to escape. Although he's not a disciple of our temple, he traveled together with us, so I hope he does not have an accident. He brought this upon himself. Xiao Bai snorted coldly. I still haven't figured out why he's bringing so much trouble to himself. If Yang Kai had not taken the initiative to stand up and declare he was a Tao Source grade alchemist, no one would have guessed he was. However, he stood up and publicly acknowledged he was Tao source-grade alchemist and had taken on the task of refining the extraordinary treasure pill. Even if everything went well though, and the extraordinary treasure pills were successfully refined, Xianxia didn't stand to gain any benefits. According to the current situation, once the extraordinary treasure pills were refined, a great battle would surely result, and at that time, who would care about him being the one who refined the spirit pills? If he didn't surrender them, being punched to death was entirely possible. On the other hand, if things didn't go well, there would only be one result: Xianxia being chased to death by everyone. Doing something so troublesome with no hope of gaining any benefits was the act of a fool. So Xiao Baiyi could not figure out why Xianxia had done this. Was it just because he was an alchemist and couldn't bear seeing a rare spirit flower go to waste? It was true that alchemists were an eccentric group of people. Sometimes people would come begging them for alchemy services but would be ignored. However, if a rare spirit medicine that caught their interest was involved, sometimes they would actually chase after and volunteer their services for free as long as they could be the ones to refine it into a pill. The extraordinary treasure lotus was undoubtedly one of the most precious spirit flowers in the world due to its extreme rarity. Only one extraordinary treasure lotus would ever appear in the world at any one time. If Xianxia wanted to refine the extraordinary treasure pill for this reason, it would make sense. But, no matter how Xiao Baiyi looked at it, he couldn't imagine Xianxia being such a pedantic person. Nor did he seem to be the type who would put himself into danger just for temporary interests. Perhaps he has the confidence to escape under the eyes of all these masters. After this thought flashed across his mind, Xiao Baiyi couldn't help but chuckle, secretly feeling that he was thinking too much. It was undeniable that Xianxia was strong, but in the end, he was just one person. So how could he escape under the watchful gazes of so many? Just Wuchang alone would be enough to hold him down. As the two talked, Xianxia continued his efforts. A total of 19 auxiliary herbs were thrown into the black jade furnace by him and condensed into medicinal liquids. Finally, at this moment, he stood up, rushed over to the extraordinary treasure lotus in a few steps, and gently sliced off the blossomed flower. The mature spirit flower was harvested by Xianxia in an instant. All that remained was a delicate stem. In that instant, everyone's eyes locked onto the stem as greed filled their eyes. Although they didn't know why Xianxia didn't harvest the entire extraordinary treasure lotus, this stem was undoubtedly an extremely precious treasure. Even if it was not refined into a pill, swallowing it might have some miraculous effects. And in front of everyone's eyes, the top of this stem oozed a milky white liquid, one that was pure and flawless, causing many to gulp. Not only did the ordinary cultivators have their eyes on this stem, but even masters like Wu Chang and Xiaxiang were focused on it. However, no one acted rashly and instead turned inquiring eyes towards Xianxia, not knowing why he had acted this way. Ignoring everyone, Xianxia ran back to his alchemy furnace and carefully continued to control the fire. When it was time, he threw the freshly picked extraordinary treasure lotus into the furnace. These few simple actions, however, caused a lot of cold sweat to leak from his forehead, as if he had just faced down a terrifying enemy. The moment the extraordinary treasure lotus entered the furnace, Xianxia began forming different seals in order to stabilize the situation inside. Whistling sounds leaked out as the furnace shook, causing Xianxia to secretly rejoice. He had not hesitated to expose Lu Yan's existence before beginning this refinement. The difficulty of refining the extraordinary treasure pill was beyond his expectations, and he knew that if it had not been for Lu Yan's assistance, he might not have been able to last until the end. Right now, even with Lu Yan's help, whether this furnace of extraordinary treasure pills could be refined successfully was debatable. However, succeeding now would undoubtedly greatly improve Xianxia's comprehension of the alchemic Tao. After working frantically for some time, Xianxia let out a long breath. By now, all the herbs had been added to the pill furnace, and what remained was for him to control the heat by applying the appropriate spirit arrays, then complete the pill condensing. Only now did Xianxia take a moment to quickly shout, "I advise you not to have any ideas about that stem." Although he had been concentrating on alchemy just now, Xianxia had not stopped monitoring his surroundings. He clearly saw that many people were interested in this stem, but they didn't know if he needed it for some purpose, so no one dared rush in to take it. Oh, why not? Zhuang Bufan asked doubtfully upon hearing this. Yang Kai's expression turned solemn. This stem is the source of the extraordinary treasure lotus. If it is left, perhaps within 100 years another extraordinary treasure lotus will be born in the star boundary. But if it is picked, within 10,000 years, there will be no such spirit flower in this world. There's no telling when it will be born again. Is that true? Lan Xun's eyes flashed as she had never heard such information before. Believe what you will, Yang Kai quickly said. That has nothing to do with me. Wu Chang suddenly shouted. What problems occur 10,000 years from now can be solved by the people of that time. Since you don't need this stem, then I'm claiming it for myself. You dare. Yang Kai turned his head and glared at Wu Chang while simultaneously palming the top of the black jade furnace. This move caused the complexions of all cultivators present to change drastically, turning nervous as they worried about what Yang Kai was trying to do. If you dare to touch it, I'll ruin this furnace of spirit pills. Yang Kai shouted in a deep voice, his expression calm and determined. Hey! Xiaxiang's mouth twitched as he stared at Yang Kai in surprise, quickly coaxing, Brother Yang, why act this way? It's just a stem. If Brother Wu Chang wants it, just let him have it. It's not necessary to threaten the extraordinary treasure pills just to stop him. He didn't know what kind of madness had possessed Yang Kai to go so far as to threaten Wu Chang with the extraordinary treasure pills. One had to know that this move was not just a blatant threat to Wu Chang, but to every cultivator present. One wrong move and Yang Kai would become everyone's enemy. Yang Kai turned a deaf ear to him though. If anyone dares to approach within 10 meters, I will immediately destroy this medicinal liquid. Do not test me. When these words came out, Wu Chang really didn't dare to move anymore. Although the stem looked quite extraordinary, it was definitely not as valuable as the extraordinary treasure pills. Offending Yang Kai over this was obviously not worth it. Wu Chang, don't act hastily. Xiao Chun was also taken aback and hurriedly called out to Wu Chang. Wu Chang paused on the spot as he stared at Yang Kai with gloomy eyes and said coldly, You dare to threaten me? I'm not threatening you. Yang Kai's eyes flashed a strong light as he said calmly, I simply wish to preserve hope for future generations. Lan Xun smiled hearing this and commented, I've heard that when alchemists collect rare spirit herbs, they will do their best to preserve the vitality of the original spirit's medicine. On top of that, they will never collect spirit medicines that are not yet mature. I was a little skeptical about this at first, but now it seems such rumors are true. Yang Kai nodded. Our predecessors planted trees, which allowed us, their descendants, to enjoy cool shade. Who can say for certain that encountering this extraordinary treasure lotus today was not because a senior expert left behind a similar stem 100 years ago? Others left hope for us, so we should not act to cut off hope for the future. Otherwise, it will damage the cycle of the heavenly way. As soon as he said this, Lan Xun's beautiful eyes lit up as she revealed a thoughtful look. Furthermore, Yang Kai continued, this stem does not have any of the magical effects of the extraordinary treasure lotus. At most, it can help slightly temper one's source qi and spiritual energy. All the essence of the extraordinary treasure lotus is already inside the furnace. Brother Wu Chang, are you sure you want this root instead of the extraordinary treasure pills? Wu Chang's face turned ugly. In fact, when Yang Kai said that the stem was not very useful, he had already lost interest in it, but in front of everyone's eyes, he had no way to back down without losing face, so he could only stand there gloomily and glare ruthlessly. However, a moment later, the stem suddenly shook before bursting into a million specks of colorful light and disappearing from sight, as if it had never even existed. This? Xiao Chun was dumbfounded. Yang Kai smiled and said, Good. Now the root has left and no one will be able to find it again. After a pause, he added, By the way, if the spirit flower was picked before reaching maturity, the entire extraordinary treasure lotus would have ended up this way. Hearing this, many people suddenly broke out into a cold sweat, secretly rejoicing that someone with the appropriate knowledge and foresight was here. Otherwise, Someone would have definitely picked this spirit flower before it matured and everyone would have lost. Turning his head, Xianxia continued to focus on controlling the heat and portraying appropriate spirit arrays. Wuchang stood awkwardly on the spot for a moment before letting out a cold snort and with a stern expression sat back down. Gulyalu. The black jade furnace continued to percolate. With time, more and more people grew anxious as their eyes darted about, the entire mountaintop gradually filling with a tense atmosphere. It seemed that everyone was waiting for the moment when the extraordinary treasure pills were completed, and once that happened, chaos would break loose. Xianxia knew this as well, but he maintained a state of absolute calm, focusing all his effort into his alchemy. At a certain moment, he wore a serious expression and began pouring his source qi into the black jade furnace. At the same time, he stood up directly and began forming a complex series of hand seals, injecting a profound and mysterious flower of energy into the alchemy furnace. Pill condensing. It wasn't clear who shouted these words, but once they did, everyone's breathing became somewhat rapid as excitement and expectation filled the crowd's faces. This was the last step in alchemy, and if it was executed well, it would lead to a successful refinement, but if it was not, all previous efforts would be in vain. Xianxia's hands danced in a marvelous display, with a solemn expression on his face as big drops of sweat soaked his robes, his whole figure looking like he had been dunked in water as his face turned pale, seemingly exhausting an incredible amount of energy. But even so, his movements were methodical and calm. Can a pill condensing method be so amazing? Lan Xun's eyes showed a faint radiance as she stared at Xianxia's movements. Although she was seeing the Nine Heavens' profound pill method for the first time, that did not prevent her from discovering how profound this pill condensing method was. This pill condensing method seemed to harmonize perfectly with the heavenly way, a dazzling and awe-inspiring sight to behold. As if inspired by Xianxia's movements, a faint resonance of the heavenly way began to spread out and fill the air. It was not surprising for Lan Xun to be entranced though, as the Nine Heavens profound pill method was a method granted to Xianxia by the grand alchemic Dao Tone. It was an innate product of heaven and earth, and even contained elements of the world's fundamental truths. Lan Xun was able to realize the mysteries of this method with her first-order Dao Source Realm cultivation, so the third-order Dao Source Realm cultivators present could as well. None of them understood why, but as they observed Xianxia execute his pill condensing method, many cultivators were involuntarily drawn into a kind of enlightened state, their tension and anticipation fading away as they unknowingly immersed in a state of comprehension. At a certain moment, Xianxia suddenly roared, "Solidify!" Seemingly having exhausted all his strength, Xianxia patted the furnace with both his palms as his body shook slightly. Along with his movements, a ding-dong sound suddenly sounded from the alchemy furnace. At the same time, rays of multicolored light burst from the black jade furnace. Success! At that moment, everyone understood that the refinement of the extraordinary treasure pills had succeeded. Everyone began pushing their source qi, wanting to rush towards the place where Xianxia stood and snatch this peerless pill that could clear their path to the Emperor realm. It was then, though, that the world trembled and a muffled sound echoed in everyone's head. An astonishing pressure descended from above, causing everyone to go stiff as some even felt their breath catch in their chest. Everyone turned their eyes up towards the sky where dark clouds had at some unknown point appeared. Lightning and thunder shuttled across these black clouds as a kind of vast aura filled the air and made all present feel a deep sense of insignificance. "Pill tribulation," Lan Xun exclaimed as a look of panic appeared in her beautiful eyes for the first time. "So you've come," Xianxia mumbled lowly. Even before he began refining the extraordinary treasure pill, Xianxia had faintly guessed that this refining might lead to a pill tribulation. The effects of the extraordinary treasure pill were too heaven-defying, to the point that its mere existence was intolerable to the heavens. Once it successfully came into being, the omnipresent world principles would naturally try to destroy it. Looking at the ferocity of this pill tribulation, it would likely be even more ferocious than if a third-order Dao Source Realm cultivator was trying to break through to the Emperor realm. How could a trivial spirit pill withstand such destructive impetus? Likely a single blow would be all that is necessary to disintegrate these pills. Even if Yang Kai was at full strength right now and used everything he had to guard them, whether these newly refined extraordinary treasure pills could survive this pill tribulation was doubtful. Once that happened, all his efforts and everyone's expectations would burst into nothingness. At the critical moment, Yang Kai patted his alchemy furnace and at the same time moved his divine sense. In the next moment, Lu Yen turned into a ray of flames, shot out from the black jade furnace, and was directly collected by Yang Kai into the small sealed world. Without anyone noticing, Lu Yen had swept away some of the extraordinary treasure pills from the furnace. At this moment, everyone's attention had been drawn to the pill tribulation. So who would notice Lu Yan's actions? Even if someone did see Yang Kai's artifact spirit return, they would likely not have imagined that she had swept away some of the extraordinary treasure pills as well. Soon, something that surprised everyone happened. High up in the sky, the pill tribulation which had just condensed began to dissipate, its frightening thunder and lightning fading away and disappearing. After only 10 breaths, calm had been restored, leaving only some lingering fear in everyone's heart as they glanced around in confusion. Ha! Wuchang frowned as he stared up blankly. He couldn't understand why this pill tribulation had been like a storm with loud thunder, but no rain. A moment ago, it was raging and the pressure was almost unbearable, but in the next instant the clouds parted and everything was calm. No one was able to understand. Scram! At the moment when everyone had been lost in confusion, Yang Kai's shout rang out, and an astonishing surge of source chi flared up. Pung 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 pung. It seemed he was fighting someone. Hearing this movement, everyone's expressions changed as they quickly turned their attention back to where Yang Kai was standing. There, Yang Kai stood in place, one hand still on his alchemy furnace, the other palming in all directions, creating a flurry of afterimages. Around him, a figure moved at high speed, trying to approach closer to where Yang Kai stood. It seemed this person wanted to break through Yang Kai's blockage and snatch the spirit pills which had just been refined. However, no matter how hard this person tried, he was unable to get within 3 meters of Yang Kai without being forced back. Luo Yuan. Lan Sun's brow furrowed as she whispered under her breath. Naturally, she recognized the man who was fighting with Yang Kai was Luo Yuan of Eight Paths sect. She didn't know where he had been hiding before, but clearly, when everyone's attention had been attracted by the pill tribulation, he had stealthily dove in and tried to snatch all the extraordinary treasure pills. Unfortunately, Yang Kai blocked him at the last moment, causing his plan to fall short. It seemed he had underestimated Yang Kai's strength, thinking that a mere first-order Dao source realm cultivator who had just finished a difficult refinement process wouldn't be his opponent. Luo Yuan quickly realized he was wrong after he acted though. Standing in place, Yang Kai seemed to be stuck in an extremely passive situation, but upon closer inspection, it was clear he still had a lot of leeway to act. What's more, his source chi was extremely dense and pure, making it impossible for Luo Yuan to break through his defense in short order. I miscalculated. Luo Yuan cursed to himself, knowing he had missed this opportunity. He originally intended to grab the extraordinary treasure pills and flee, but now he had been blocked by Yang Kai. Everyone else had recovered now, and if he did not retreat, Luo Yuan knew he would face everyone else's besiegement. Understanding this, Luo Yuan made a feint before lightly withdrawing 100 meters, glaring at Yang Kai with a gloomy look, as if blaming him for ruining his good deed. Although Yang Kai's face was slightly pale, he still grinned and teased. Brother Luo Yuan's plans are quite deep. How long have you been waiting to make your move? Humph. Luo Yuan snorted coldly and did not answer Yang Kai's question directly, instead just saying, "You're not ordinary yourself." What he meant was probably that Yang Kai's true strength was completely inconsistent with his cultivation. Yang Kai just smiled lightly as he swept his gaze around the crowd, seeing everyone staring at his black jade furnace fiercely. Looking like they were about to attack, he even shouted loudly, "Everyone, wait a moment." As soon as this statement came out, everyone actually stood still and didn't move. Even Wu Chang didn't rush to take Yang Kai at this moment. Previously, when Yang Kai and Luo Yuan fought against each other, although it was just a brief exchange, anyone with a bit of vision could see that Yang Kai was not someone easy to deal with. No one present was confident they could defeat him instantly. Once they were unable to completely and immediately subdue him, others would pounce and the situation would quickly devolve into a chaotic melee. Such a result was not one anyone wanted to see. As you can see, this Yang has not disappointed everyone's trust. The extraordinary treasure pills have been refined successfully. As Yang Kai spoke, he even took out a spirit pill from his space ring and stuffed it into his mouth. Everyone could clearly see that this spirit pill restored source chi. Now that you've finished it, your role here is over. Hand over the spirit pills, Wu Chang said in a commanding tone. Heh. This Yang has thought about this matter quite a bit. Yang Kai smiled, paused for a few breaths, then declared, "These spirit pills have indeed been refined, but I won't be handing any of them over." "What did you say?" Wu Chang's face suddenly turned cold. "Boy, you court death. You want sole possession of such heaven-defying spirit pills, such arrogance. Brat, I advise you to hand over those spirit pills obediently. Otherwise we'll all rip your corpse into 10,000 pieces. You're all alone. There's no way to resist the attack of so many people." As soon as Yang Kai spoke out, the crowd exploded into a flurry of curses, threats, and even enticements. Yang Kai turned a deaf ear to all of this as his expression became cold. Glancing around, he snapped, "What kind of nonsense are you all spouting? This extraordinary treasure lotus was first discovered by this Yang, and the extraordinary treasure pills were also refined by this Yang alone. Even the vast majority of the adjuvant herbs for this spirit pill were provided by this Yang. All of you just stood there and watched the show. And now you want to obtain these extraordinary treasure pills for nothing? All of you should stop dreaming and wake up. Don't get cocky, boy. Heh. Kid. It seems this kid is sleep-talking, daring to boast so shamelessly. I bet he won't survive past today. Why waste any time with him? Let's just kill him and snatch those spirit pills." Although Yang Kai had proved his strength just now, making many realize he was not an easy opponent to deal with so many of them against him alone, naturally they didn't put Yang Kai in their eyes. To everyone, Yang Kai's current approach was nothing less than courting death. During the clamor, everyone's eyes were still filled with greed and murderous intent as they stared at Yang Kai. "It seems like this was what you planned to do since the beginning, right?" Wu Chang looked at Yang Kai coldly and asked mockingly. "Of course." Yang Kai turned to look at him. "I didn't plan to give these extraordinary treasure pills to you people from the very beginning. Honestly, when I discovered the extraordinary treasure lotus, I could have just swallowed it. Even if that would be a waste of the heaven's precious gifts, it would still have some effect and it would be better than handing the benefits over to all of you." "Bold!" Wu Chang roared furiously, a grin appearing on his face as his momentum suddenly rose and he stepped towards Yang Kai. Every time he took a step, his imposing manner would increase in intensity, like an ancient beast that caused all around him to shudder. "Although your plan wasn't bad, you need the corresponding strength to implement it. Do you think you have such ability? If I didn't..." Yang Kai grinned at him and said, "I wouldn't have tried. If he didn't have enough confidence, how could he have acted this way?" Not only had he exposed himself as a Tao Source-grade alchemist in front of everyone's eyes, he even put in the work to refine the extraordinary treasure pills. Of course, Yang Kai wouldn't have done all this while only thinking he would lose the benefits to everyone else. Everything he had done to refine the extraordinary treasure pill, Yang Kai had done for this moment. As he spoke, he lifted his hand and shouted, "Break!" Accompanied by this loud shout, a cracking sound suddenly rang out. At the same time, with Yang Kai as the center, the space within a radius of 300 meters shattered like a mirror, with numerous black cracks appearing and swirling about, each one giving off a fatal aura. A strange power that seemed to communicate with the heavens and earth filled the air. Wu Chang stopped abruptly as he stared at the space in front of him, his expression fluctuating as he examined this new phenomenon. Void cracks. Space principles. Cries rang out one after another as the faces of everyone present filled with shock and amazement. Space principles. The strange scene before them was definitely the result of someone manipulating space principles, There was no other explanation for affecting space so dramatically. Anyone who wanted to enter this 300-meter radius region of shattered space would have to be prepared to risk being sliced apart by these void cracks. You actually comprehended this esoteric Tao. Wuchang ground his teeth and roared, his expression full of unwillingness and anger, as if Yang Kai had just brutally insulted him. The Tao of space was one of the rarest and most difficult Taos to comprehend. Yang Kai being proficient in this esoteric Tao naturally made Wuchang feel unwilling to accept. In this world, there is actually someone who can manipulate space principles to such an extent with such a low cultivation? Lan Sun's beautiful eyes were filled with shock and admiration as he gazed towards Yang Kai's direction. Because of the fluctuating space principles, it was hard for her to even pinpoint Yang Kai's position, as he seemed both near and far at the same time. Under the interference of this kind of field, it would be impossible for others to attack him. Maybe he's just using some kind of artifact, Xiao Chun said with dissatisfaction. Didn't he have an emperor artifact? Seems this kid has an unusual background. He must be using some kind of space-type artifact. Lan Sun frowned and didn't bother paying any attention to him. Although it was indeed possible to achieve this kind of effect with a powerful artifact, there were no signs Yang Kai had used anything of the sort just now. Lan Sun had clearly seen him raise his hand and release his aura before the surrounding space principles distorted. This was definitely his own strength. This kid? On the other side, Xiaxiang, who has been on the edge the entire time, wryly smiled. After Yang Kai refined the extraordinary treasure pills, Xiaxiang had begun sending him covert messages, asking him to cooperate with them. However, Yang Kai had ignored him completely and instead pulled off this stunt. It seems like he doesn't need any help, Xiao Baiyi said thoughtfully. Xiaxing narrowed his gaze. If he's proficient in the Tao of space, he can definitely do that. If he has such skill, he really doesn't need to fear anyone here. But what? Xiao Baiyi looked at Xiaxiang curiously. Why doesn't he then? Xiaxiang looked at Yang Kai in confusion. Wouldn't it be best for him to just run away with the extraordinary treasure pills? Him staying here and taunting everyone doesn't make any sense. Does it? Hearing what he said, Xiao Baiyi was also at a loss, completely unable to figure out Yang Kai's intentions. On the other side, Wu Chang's face went from black to blue as he stared at Yang Kai, silently for a moment before muttering, "Do you think you're safe hiding behind that screen?" Yang Kai smiled and said, "Does Brother Wu Chang want to try?" "I was just about to," Wu Chang exclaimed. As Wu Chang's anger boiled over, a figure suddenly shot out. It was not Wu Chang that moved first, but Luo Yuan. Using some kind of extremely profound movement skill, Luo Yuan approached the region affected by space principles and stood mid-air, looking down coldly as he lifted his hands up high, clenched them into a double hammer fist and smashed down. Violent energy surged. Behind Luo Yuan, a phantom image several dozen meters high suddenly appeared. This figure was humanoid in shape, but indistinct in features. Raising its two great hands, it mirrored Luo Yuan's actions perfectly. Honk! After a breath, there was a loud noise as the huge phantom fists slammed into the shattered space. Yang Kai's face darkened. The swirling void cracks around him were collapsing rapidly as the region of shattered space he had created was broken open at that moment. Before he could react, Wu Chang leapt out from a blind spot in Yang Kai's field of vision behind Luo Yuan. In Wu Chang's hands were two swords, one flawlessly white, one fiery red. The swords crossed and created a brilliant radiance. Just as Wu Chang crossed his sword, a surge of sword chi burst forth and he shouted, "Sword prison, sealing 4 poles. Chi 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 chi." A sword wave visible to the naked eye flooded out, forming an invisible field that sealed off the surrounding space. Everyone was shocked and awed. Wu Chang and Luo Yuan were 2 of the Southern Territory's top elites, and the little interaction they had before had only resulted in friction between them. But at this moment, they were working together flawlessly. As the first to move, Luo Yuan had broken through Yang Kai's space principles, after which Wu Chang followed up by sealing Yang Kai's actions. In this way, even if Yang Kai was proficient in the Tao of space, he would be reduced to a turtle hiding in its shell. The two had executed their techniques with near-perfect timing. Even blood brothers who had lived their entire lives together may not have been able to achieve such a level of coordination. But these two cultivators from different backgrounds did just that with only their innate judgments and fighting instincts. This is bad. Xiaxiang's expression changed as he shouted. On the other side, Wu Chong sneered, "Now you die!" As he spoke, the swords in his hands trembled as a storm of red and white sword light shot towards Yang Kai. He didn't show any mercy, obviously planning to kill Yang Kai in one strike. In front of everyone's eyes, the storm swallowed Yang Kai directly and shattered his body. Even the black jade furnace beside him was shattered. What? Just as everyone was lost in amazement, they saw this terrible scene and couldn't help letting out pained cries. Although Yang Kai's death had nothing to do with them and they didn't care one bit about it. If the extraordinary treasure pills were destroyed in the process, it was a result no one could accept. Now Wu Chong would become the greatest sinner rather than Yang Kai. As for Wu Chong though, he didn't show the slightest joy after his strike went well and instead just stood there frowning. Luo Yuan was the same as he raised his eyes and looked around as if he was searching for something. The phantom giant behind him also gradually faded away. "My patience is limited." A voice suddenly came from the side. After hearing this voice, everyone turned to see Yang Kai standing midair a short distance away, completely unharmed, holding the alchemy furnace in his hands. Sweeping a gloomy glare around, Yang Kai shouted loudly, "Just now, I'll consider your actions a test of whether I am qualified to discuss terms with all of you. Now that the results are clear though, if someone still doesn't know their limitations and dares to attack me, I'll eat all the extraordinary treasure pills in this furnace." Madman, madman, this guy is insane. Brother Yang, aren't you afraid eating so many pills will be bad for you? Why not give one to me so I can share your burden? Wu Chong frowned as he muttered in a low voice, "Like I thought, he can teleport." He had already guessed earlier that since Yang Kai was proficient in the Tao of space, he could leap across space and teleport, which was why he tried to seal the region around him in order to catch him. He had coordinated with Luo Yuan flawlessly to achieve this, but they still weren't able to trap Yang Kai. In fact, Wu Chong didn't even notice when Yang Kai had teleported away. From this point alone, he knew that no one here could capture Yang Kai. It seemed the rumors about cultivators who were proficient in the Tao of space being unrivaled when it came to escaping and tracking were true. If someone wanted to kill or capture Yang Kai, only three methods were valid. Either invite a cultivator with a huge enough advantage in strength over Yang Kai that they could crush him in one blow instantly to act, so there was no chance the latter could use teleport away, lure Yang Kai into an independent space that he could not escape from, or set up a barrier to seal space to trap him inside. In the Four Seasons realm, no one could do this. In here, Yang Kai could come and go as he pleased. So Brother Yang's intentions are to negotiate with us? Lan Xun raised her brow as she read between the lines of Yang Kai's words just now. Princess is correct. Yang Kai grinned, or at least half correct. Please elaborate. Lan Xun smiled. The ones I need to negotiate with are them, not with you, princess. As Yang Kai spoke, he reached into his alchemy furnace and took out a round, longan-sized, pure white spirit pill. A refreshing aroma immediately diffused. An extraordinary treasure pill. A cry of excitement came from the crowd as everyone stared at the spirit pill fiercely, all of them identifying it as the legendary pill which could help them reach the Emperor realm. One of the key herbs used to refine these extraordinary treasure pills was provided by Her Highness, so this Yang will deliver one to her in accordance with our previous agreement. Please accept it. Yang Kai held the spirit pill out towards Lan Xun. Oh? Brother Yang is willing to fulfill that agreement. Lan Xun looked at him with some surprise. She thought Yang Kai would renege on this promise, but now it appeared things were a little different from her expectations. Yang Kai said in a serious tone, "This is only natural. These extraordinary treasure pills could only be successfully refined thanks to the jade blood mushroom provided by Princess. Without that jade blood mushroom, there would be no extraordinary treasure pills at this moment, so naturally giving one to Princess is appropriate. As for the others, without contributing anything or putting in any effort, they want to swallow these pills. Snorting disdainfully, they must be dreaming. Brother Yang's reasoning is fair. Lan Xun nodded lightly before saying seriously, if that is the case, then little sister will accept. Saying so, she lightly stepped towards Yang Kai. Not long after, she arrived in front of Yang Kai, took the spirit pill in hand, and quietly whispered, "Many thanks. Princess is too polite." Yang Kai responded with a smile. "It would be best if Princess can take this spirit pill immediately. The extraordinary treasure pill is different from ordinary spirit pills in that its effects are permanent and cumulative. The sooner one takes it, the better its efficacy will be. When Princess attempts to break through to the Emperor realm, the extraordinary treasure pill will still provide the maximum benefits. Then, I'll eat it now," Lan Xun said and popped the extraordinary treasure pill into her delicate mouth before swallowing it down. Gudong. The gulping sound did not come from Lan Xun, but from the onlookers below. Everyone watched Lan Xun take this spirit pill and unconsciously swallowed their saliva. Princess is extremely talented, so with the help of this spirit pill, reaching the Emperor realm is surely just around the corner. This Yang wishes Princess prosperity and a swift ascension to the peak of the martial Tao. "I'll accept your kind words." Lan Xun smiled lightly. "Are you finished with your flattery?" Wu Chang suddenly interrupted the conversation between the two with an unhappy expression, glaring at Yang Kai coldly as he said, "I understand what you're doing now." "Oh." Yang Kai raised his brow and looked at Wu Chang. "Let's hear what Brother Wu Chang's guess is then." "Humph." Wu Chang coldly snorted. "The extraordinary treasure pills have been refined, and you are proficient in the Tao of space, so you could leave here at any time, but you didn't. Instead, you stayed here and chattered on endlessly. You even deliberately took out an extraordinary treasure pill to seduce everyone. Obviously, you want to exchange these extraordinary treasure pills for something from the people here." After a short pause, he continued, "You're quite shrewd too. You know that even if you leave the Four Seasons realm with the extraordinary treasure pills, you may not be able to protect yourself. As long as the cultivators here bring this news back to their forces, the Emperor Realm Masters outside won't let you leave easily. They may not go so far as to use their strength and status to snatch things from you, but they will surely make you hand over the extraordinary treasure pills while giving you some meager compensation. However, instead of passively accepting whatever compensation they offer, it would be better to take the initiative and seize as many benefits as you can hear," he finally concluded. "Am I right?" Yang Kai looked at Wu Chang in amazement, seemingly dumbfounded. After a while, he applauded loudly and nodded. "I really didn't think Brother Wu Chang was such a sharp-minded person." His remarks undoubtedly acknowledged what Wu Chang said. In fact, this was precisely Yang Kai's plan. The extraordinary treasure pills were extremely precious, and if it were possible, Yang Kai would have preferred keeping them all for himself. In the future, he might be able to use them to exchange for some precious items he needed. Yang Kai was certain that once they heard the three words, extraordinary treasure pill, no individual or sect would refuse to trade with him, not even Star Soul Palace. However, just as Wu Chang said, even if he brought the extraordinary treasure pills out from the Four Seasons realm, it would be absolutely impossible to bring them away with him. The Emperor Realm Masters waiting outside the exit would certainly not let him just leave. The best-case scenario would be the Emperor's dividing up his extraordinary treasure pills and then paying him a few source crystals or treasures as compensation. This was not what Yang Kai wanted to see. He would settle things on his own terms. Even if it meant suffering a slight loss, he wouldn't let others interfere. So he was planning this all along. Xianxia showed a sudden look of realization. Before now, he had been puzzled by Yang Kai's seemingly trouble-seeking actions, but now it turned out everything was intentional. The reason he had wanted to refine the extraordinary treasure pills and then try to swallow up everything on his own was simply to create this situation where he could bargain with everyone for benefits. This must have been his intent from the start. The conditions to successfully implement this plan were quite harsh. First, Yang Kai needed strong confidence in his own alchemy skills to simply refine the extraordinary treasure pills. If he had failed at this step, everything else would have fallen apart. Second, he needed absolute confidence in his own strength, not only so he could fend off anyone who tried to attack him, but also so he could successfully escape. But now, it seemed that Yang Kai had met both of these conditions, and the end result was him being able to pull off this daring plot perfectly. He had the ability to refine the extraordinary treasure pills, and he had the ability to come and go as he pleased right in front of all these masters' eyes. The initiative had always laid with Yang Kai, and everyone else who had been dreaming about the extraordinary treasure pills had been played by him. When everyone had been watching Yang Kai perform alchemy, there must have been no one who thought things would turn out to be like this, right? If they knew what they knew now, likely, no one would have waited for Yang Kai to try refining the extraordinary treasure lotus into pills and instead would have just tried to snatch it from him. This fellow had a real talent for exceeding expectations and annoying others. However, that did not diminish people's admiration for his guts and courage. This kind of action was equivalent to making enemies of everyone present, and the slightest mistake would have resulted in death. Without extreme boldness and courage, who could accomplish such a feat? Considering all this, Xiaxiang's expression changed again as he secretly re-evaluated Yang Kai as a cunning bastard. After he succeeded in refining the extraordinary treasure pills, Yang Kai had given the first one to Lan Sun. The supposed reason for this was because Lan Sun had provided the necessary jade blood mushroom, which followed the agreement made before, but in fact, Yang Kai probably didn't want to become enemies with Lan Sun. After all, Lan Sun's identity was unique. No one wanted to find themselves at odds with her. Even if it weren't for her providing the jade blood mushroom at that time, Yang Kai would likely have found some other way to make Lan Sun accept the spirit pill. For instance, he could ask her to testify to the efficacy of the extraordinary treasure pills. After Lan Sun accepted such a proposal, it would be impossible for her to embarrass him. On the contrary, after exiting the Four Seasons realm, she would likely put in a good word for him. This was tantamount to securing himself a safety net. For a time, words like crafty, sly, cunning, etc. flashed across Xiaxiang's mind. Enough idle talk. Wu Chang snapped. What do you want in exchange? What do I want in exchange for these? Hehehe. Yang Kai smiled without saying a word, his aloof expression causing many to feel an impulse to rush up and beat him up. I have a matter I am curious about. Zhuang Bufan seemed to have recovered from his source cheese competition with Yang Kai already and stood up with a ruddy face. Looking at Yang Kai, he asked, Brother Yang, the extraordinary treasure pills, how many are there? When this statement came out, Xiao Chun couldn't help shouting, yes. This Xiao was also wondering just how many extraordinary treasure pills there are. A single furnace of spirit pills could only produce a limited number of pills. Even if the greatest emperor-grade alchemist used the star boundary's most profound alchemy techniques, the maximum number of pills they could refine from a single set of ingredients was 9. In other words, this furnace could at most contain 9 extraordinary treasure pills. In reality, depending on the level of alchemist, their condition during the refinement, the profundity of their pill condensing technique, and the quality of the herbs they used, the number of spirit pills they refined would vary. No matter how good an alchemist was, or how ideal the circumstances were, refining a full 9 pills was a rare occurrence. The grade of the extraordinary treasure pill was not low, and Yang Kai's achievements as an alchemist weren't too high, so it was impossible for there to be 9 extraordinary treasure pills. The most likely scenario was 3 or 4. Even 2 was a possibility. Before exchanging with Yang Kai, at the very least, people wanted to inquire about how many chances there were. This was a basic principle of bargaining. However, to everyone's surprise, when Yang Kai heard this, he simply smiled again and said, There's a few of them, hehehe. Zhuang Bufan's brow furrowed as he called out, Brother Yang, please stop making trouble. We're trying to discuss business with you. Yang Kai glanced at him before casually saying, Then I'll count. Please do, Brother Yang. Zhuang Bufan nodded. In front of everyone's eyes, Yang Kai really opened the alchemy furnace and looked inside. The moment he opened the lid, countless divine senses shrouded Yang Kai from all directions, wanting to get a glimpse. But before these people could see clearly what the situation was, Yang Kai covered the alchemy furnace, glanced around with a displeased expression, and coldly snorted, Originally, I was going to tell you how many spirit pills there were. After all, it's not a big deal either way. But this Yang is getting tired of everyone using such rude and voyeuristic methods. So this Yang has decided. He paused, whipping up everyone's appetites. To not tell you, Yang Kai said loudly. Bastard. Boy, are you messing with us? I didn't try to peep just now. Brother Yang. Quietly tell me please. Yang Kai scanned the surroundings with cold eyes, pointed in several directions and said, the people who just cursed at me can scram. No matter what kind of price you offer, I won't give you an extraordinary treasure pill. As soon as he said this, a number of cultivators wore ugly expressions as they hurriedly begged for forgiveness. Yang Kai snorted loudly and then, under everyone's shocked gaze, did something astonishing. Reaching his hand into the alchemy furnace, Yang Kai snatched and brought out an extraordinary treasure pill identical to the one he had given Lan Sun just now. Then, he opened his mouth and threw this extraordinary treasure pill directly into his mouth. Gabbing, with a loud crunching sound, Yang Kai chomped on the extraordinary treasure pill like it was a piece of candy as he put an expression of supreme bliss onto his face, turning his eyes up towards the heavens as if he was immersed in a joyful sensation he simply could not describe in words. Everyone was shocked. Everyone was stunned. Gudong. After a moment, along with the sound of swallowing, Yang Kai belched and patted his belly with a satisfied expression. Tasty! Only then did he turn his attention back to the crowd and grin subtly. No matter how many extraordinary treasure pills there were before, now there is one less. There aren't many left. If any of these friends wants an extraordinary treasure pills, they'd best act quickly. Come forward and offer up a price to this Yang. First come, first served. If you don't hurry, there'll be none left. His demeanor and tone completely changed to that of a market hawker, spouting wondrous and colorful descriptions of his wares. As he spoke, Yang Kai added, as for what I will exchange them for, and just show me whatever you obtained in the Four Seasons realm. If this Yang takes a liking to it, he'll trade for it. If not, I won't. Good. All sales are voluntary. Please step right up. Saying so, Yang Kai stretched out his hand and patted his alchemy furnace before slowing landing and once again agitating the surrounding space principles to create another shattered space around himself like before. Void cracks swam back and forth, forming a deadly cage that moved and behaved erratically. Any cultivator that attempted to break into this shattered space would be cut down by the wandering space principles. Of course, this technique could also be forcibly broken like how Luo Yuan did before, but doing so would definitely result in Yang Kai escaping. Having learned their lesson already, no one was interested in challenging Yang Kai anymore. I'll come. Damn. Let me come first. Whoever dares to cut in front of me, I'll kill their whole family. Who touched this mistress but just now? Stand up, name yourself, and admit your crimes, and this mistress swears she won't harm you much. In that instant, a chaotic scene erupted as everyone swarmed up, pushing and shoving one another in a lively fashion. As for the masters who had some fame to their names, out of self-respect they stood quietly in place and did not join in the excitement. It wasn't that they didn't want to exchange for the extraordinary treasure pills with Yang Kai, but if they were to act so uncouthly at this moment, it would be too big a loss of face. However, just by looking at their expressions, it was clear they were anxious as well. After all, no one knew how many extraordinary treasure pills Yang Kai had, and they also didn't know what Yang Kai wanted to exchange them for. So if they were too late, they'd end up with nothing. Enough! Enter one by one. Anyone who dares try to break in. Don't blame this Yang for being ruthless. Yang Kai sat down in the middle of his shattered space and snorted coldly. After these words fell, the wandering void cracks seemed to recede along a certain path just big enough for a single person to pass through. Seeing this, a cultivator standing nearby swiftly charged inside. After he entered, the opening was immediately closed again, blocking others out. The noise suddenly died down as everyone looked at the first cultivator, who entered with scorching eyes and anxiety on their brows. After this person entered the shattered space, he couldn't help pausing to observe the erratic void cracks, wondering if they would soon descend on him and slice him apart. But seeing that he was still safe, He quickly brushed off his clothes and strode towards Yang Kai. As he approached, he squeezed out a smile on his face, cupped his fists, and said, "This one is Chong. I'm not interested in where you're from or what your name is." Yang Kai interrupted him with no trace of politeness and said flatly, "Take out your harvest from the Four Seasons realm and let me see if there is anything that catches my eye." "Yes, yes." The man surnamed Chong nodded repeatedly, not paying any mind to Yang Kai's rudeness. Swiftly, he took out a few things from his space ring and presented them in front of Yang Kai before falling silent and waiting nervously. Yang Kai took a look, then looked up at this man and asked, "Is this everything you gained inside?" A man surnamed Chong nodded. "Yes, this is everything." "Okay. Then you can pack your things and get out." Yang Kai waved at him. "Ah." The man surnamed Chang's face changed as he cried out, "Brother Yang, please take another." "Out, out." Yang Kai waved his hand again, stirring the space principles to directly teleport this person outside before he shouted, "Next!" After the man came back to his senses, he found that he was already standing far away from Yang Kai and couldn't help feeling annoyed. Stomping his foot, he cursed himself for failing to grasp this great opportunity, and also Yang Kai for being so ruthless. On the contrary, the others around him were clearly taking pleasure in his misfortune. However, Wu Chang, Xiao Chun, and the other masters wore solemn expressions at this moment, because they saw what Yang Kai had just done and could tell that his proficiency in the Tao of space was at an astonishing level. Not only could he teleport himself, but he could even teleport others away. Of course, the premise was surely that the other person was inside the special shattered space Yang Kai had created. But even so, it was still a shocking display of skill. How could a trivial first-order Tao source realm cultivator possibly comprehend the esoteric Tao of space to such an extent? With such ability, who in the Tao source realm could kill him? Just as everyone's expressions fluctuated, another person passed through the gap and walked up to Yang Kai. It was a woman this time, and she wore no markings to identify which force she belonged to. But that did nothing to hide her enchanting looks and glamorous dress. A deep cut on her robes exposed a large amount of snow-white skin, and each step she took caused her great peaks to ripple intoxicatingly, dizzying and dazzling those who saw. She walked up to Yang Kai and smiled charmingly, not hurrying to bring out her treasures to exchange with Yang Kai and instead softly whispering, "Little brother, big sister didn't have many gains in this place. What should she do to move you?" Yang Kai looked up at her, his eyes fixing on her chest as he grinned meaningfully. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know, so I asked you," she whispered in response, slowly squatting down while accidentally exposing more of her spring scenery. "Girl, are you trying to seduce me?" Yang Kai took a deep breath and reached out to hold the woman's delicate, silky hand. "Nonsense." The woman glared at Yang Kai angrily, but she didn't rush to take her hand back. Instead, she showed a shy expression that could tickle the hearts of any man. At the same time, a faint scent wafted from this woman's tender body, one that was quite weak but seemed to have some kind of magical effect, causing the blood of men around her to boil and their minds to numb. Shameless! Lan Sun spurned from a long distance away. Utterly shameless! Morong Xiao Xiao nodded in agreement. How improper! Xia Shang gritted his teeth, his eyes glowing with red light as he stared at Yang Kai and spat indignantly. "It's too enviable. Little brother?" The woman seemed to want to use her unique charms to gain some advantage, but as soon as these words were spoken, her face changed drastically and she jumped back from Yang Kai, a vigilant and angry look on her face. Yang Kai, on the other hand, was now holding a space ring in his hand, releasing his divine sense to check its content. As soon as the woman lowered her head, her pretty face became even uglier as she found that the space ring she had been wearing had disappeared at some point. Obviously, she hadn't even noticed when Yang Kai had snatched it from her. "As I thought, there's nothing good." After Yang Kai muttered, he threw the space ring back to the woman. The woman caught it as her chest heaved up and down, gritting her teeth as she snapped, You have quite some unique undergarments inside though. They're quite fascinating all on their own, but perhaps we should find some time to sit down together and study them." Yang Kai looked at the woman and said with a smile, Who would want to study anything with you, you bastard? Bastard. 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 The woman blushed, stomped her foot, turned around, and rushed out. Feeling the ridiculing eyes of everyone fixed on her, she didn't want to remain even a moment longer and hurriedly flew towards the exit. Xianxia scratched his nose and muttered lightly, "It's fine if you don't want to discuss things, but there's no need to curse me like that." He had an innocent expression on his face, but soon he cracked his neck and shouted, "Next!" Immediately another person rushed in. Time flew by, and half an hour soon passed. The number of people who had already tried to exchange with Xianxia for an extraordinary treasure pill had surpassed 30. But even until this moment, no one had succeeded. At first, everyone was worried about being too late to obtain any benefits. But now it seemed those worries were superfluous because whatever Xianxia wanted was surely extremely rare. Otherwise, there would have been at least someone by now who had won him over. After realizing this, the rest of the cultivators weren't so hurried. Everyone was now just secretly calculating what they should take out to satisfy Xianxia's appetite in exchange for an extraordinary treasure pill. Although Xianxia had said before that he wanted something they had harvested from the Four Seasons realm, everyone present was a Dao Source Realm master, so how could their space rings be lacking good things? Xianxia shouldn't be able to tell where those things came from. As such, the later cultivators not only took out all their gains from the Four Seasons realm but also selectively took out precious items from their space rings, hoping to catch Xianxia's eye. The value of these items was not low, and some of them even made Xianxia's eyes shine, but he still resisted the urge to trade for them, because the number of extraordinary treasure pills he possessed was truly small, and he needed them to exchange for what he needed most, the tribulation fruit. Since deciding to keep all the extraordinary treasure pills for himself, Xianxia was prepared to exchange them first and foremost for the tribulation fruit. Otherwise, he would not have made such a strange request to have everyone bring out their harvests from the Four Seasons realm. Earlier, although he found the tribulation fruits tree in the realm of winter, the spirit fruit itself had already been picked. The cultivators that had entered the Four Seasons realm were all basically gathered here now. So if nothing unexpected happened, the tribulation fruit would be in the hands of someone here. In order to obtain an extraordinary treasure pill from Xianxia, no one would conceal the treasures they had acquired. In other words, the tribulation fruit would appear in front of Xianxia sooner or later. He just needed to wait patiently. "Brother Yang, please look at these things and see if there is anything you want." While Xianxia was lost in thought, a woman walked up to him and brought out a number of items from her space ring for him to see. Xianxia collected himself and scanned the items. He had done this many times and always ended up disappointed. But this time, Xianxia raised his brow as he stared straight at a certain item. It was not the tribulation fruit, but rather something else he was quite concerned about. After seeing this thing, one of his previous guesses had partially been confirmed. Xianxia was deeply surprised inside, but he maintained an indifferent expression on his face and quickly turned his gaze away to examine the other objects the woman had taken out. There were a dozen spirit medicines that, although rare, weren't too precious. There were also 8 monster beast cores of good quality, but their grade wasn't very high. Lastly, there was a bright red stone with strange patterns on its surface that if one used their divine sense to investigate, they would feel a strong heat hidden inside of. Xianxia immediately had an idea, and as he looked at the red stone, exclaimed, "A fire spirit stone!" The woman was taken aback as she involuntarily stepped back several steps before stabilizing her figure and looking at Xianxia with joy. "Do you need this?" She didn't have much hope when she came here to trade with Xianxia. After all, before her, more than 30 people had come and gone without succeeding. Without knowing what Xianxia was looking for, the initiative for this kind of transaction lay completely in his hands. Whether other people could exchange for an extraordinary treasure pill, they could only count on their luck. But what she didn't expect was that Xianxia showed great interest in the strange stone she had picked up by chance, giving her a glimmering of hope. If things went well, she would have a chance to obtain an extraordinary treasure pill. Outside, the onlookers couldn't help looking shocked. This wasn't a surprise, though, as this was the first time Xianxia had shown any interest. The people who had gone in to exchange with him before only evoked looks of disappointment and impatience. For a moment, Everyone was curious and wanted to see what the woman had taken out which could arouse Xianxia's interest. But no one was able to see anything. Under the influence of the swirling space principles, the region around Xianxia was filled with innumerable void cracks, making it impossible for anyone to send their divine sense in to probe what was happening. Xianxia looked up at the woman and found that she was quite sweet and lovely, with a round, flushed face and a petite, exquisite figure. Her cultivation wasn't too high, only second-order Tao source realm, and it was unclear which sect she belonged to. Perhaps because of Xianxia's shameless interaction with the other woman before, this round-faced woman couldn't help feeling a little nervous and wary when she saw him staring at her. She hurriedly explained, "This is something I found accidentally in the realm of summer." "This is a good thing." Xianxia nodded repeatedly. "I do have some interest." "Really?" The round-faced woman showed a look of pleasant surprise. "Then can we—" "No." Xianxia shook his head. "Ah." The round-faced woman immediately showed a disappointed expression. "Xianxia, know your limits." For some reason, Luo Yuan suddenly shouted from outside, seemingly very dissatisfied with Xianxia's attitude. "Shut up." Xianxia gave him a blank look. "Don't call out for no reason. Just mind your own damn business." After snapping at Luo Yuan, Xianxia turned back to the round-faced woman and asked seriously, "You know what the effects of the extraordinary treasure pill are, right?" The woman nodded. "I know." "Then how precious it is, you must also understand." The woman nodded again. Xianxia smiled and said, "Then do you think this trivial fire spirit stone can be exchanged for an extraordinary treasure pill?" A trace of embarrassment appeared on the woman's face as she pursed her red lips and replied quietly and honestly, "No, that's right. The value of these two treasures is nowhere near equivalent. Although I am interested in your fire spirit stone, trading for it would obviously be a big loss for me." Xianxia chattered on before finally saying, "Only a fool would accept such a deal, right? Then do you want something else? I can give you anything I have," the round-faced woman said anxiously. She was no fool and could naturally understand what Xianxia was implying. Xianxia just said that this exchange would be a loss for him, not that he wouldn't trade with her. Hearing this, she immediately knew that Xianxia wanted something more from her, so she gritted her teeth and said, "I can give you all of these items." "Oh." Xianxia raised his brows, revealing a pensive expression, as if debating whether to accept. In all fairness, the value of these things taken out by this round-faced woman wasn't low, but it was still a bit lacking to exchange for an extraordinary treasure pill. But if the thing that Xianxia was eyeing now really had the effect he thought it did, that alone would be enough to exchange for an extraordinary treasure pill. Is this still not enough? The woman seemed very eager to obtain this extraordinary treasure pill, so seeing Xianxia's hesitant expression, she couldn't help feeling uneasy. "If you can come up with some source crystals as well, then this deal can—" Before Xianxia finished speaking, the round-faced woman stretched out her hand and touched her space ring. The next moment, a large pile of source crystals appeared in front of Xianxia. A rough count put the number at 100,000. "This is every last source crystal I have," the woman said. "All right then." Seeing this, Xianxia smiled immediately and said, "Since sister is so sincere, I will trade you an extraordinary treasure pill for all of these." "Really?" The woman's voice trembled as she almost cried out with joy, staring at Xianxia with gratitude and pleasant surprise, as if she couldn't believe she had actually succeeded. After all, there were so many people who failed before her. She had not been expecting to successfully conclude a deal here and had previously come with a mentality of trying her luck. But now, it appeared she had stumbled upon great fortune, so she was naturally quite joyful. Unable to control her emotions, she covered her mouth with her delicate hands as her eyes became somewhat wet. Xianxia reached into his alchemy furnace, took out an extraordinary treasure pill, and handed it to the woman as he said, "Since I said I would exchange with you, I will certainly keep my word." The woman then stretched out a pair of small hands and tremblingly took the pure white spirit pill, holding it extremely delicately as if she was afraid it would break, carefully examining it with her eyes. Xianxia started to pack the various treasures and source crystals the young woman had taken out into his space ring. But when he picked up a certain unremarkable yellow bead, he quietly poured his source chi and divine sense into it and found it gave no response at all. At that moment, Xianxia felt ecstatic and hurriedly put the bead away. At the same time, the cultivators outside were in an uproar. Almost everyone's eyes were now glaring hotly at the back of the round-faced woman. Although they didn't see exactly what the woman took out and reached a deal with Xianxia, at this moment, they knew the woman had an extraordinary treasure pill in her hands. Extraordinary treasure pills in Xianxia's hands? They didn't dare have any ideas about. But this young woman was nothing more than a second-order Tao source realm cultivator. So she became the target of ulterior motives. Soon, Xianxia finished packing up. He glanced at the cultivators outside before turning to the round-faced woman and sighing lightly, "Sister, and what else does this elder brother wish to discuss?" The round-faced woman seemed to have recovered from her initial joy and asked politely, "I only want to tell you a simple truth." Xianxia smiled lightly. "What? An ordinary man is innocent, but treasures make one guilty," Xianxia said sternly. The woman was taken aback for a moment, but she quickly understood and nodded gratefully towards Xianxia. "Many thanks for reminding me." Xianxia nodded and said, "Since you understand, I advise you to take this extraordinary treasure pill now. As I said earlier, this extraordinary treasure pill does not need to be taken at the moment of breakthrough, but rather the sooner one takes it, the better its effects will be when the time comes. Right now, you are still just a second-order Tao source realm cultivator, so it is the perfect time to take this. If sister is comfortable, this yang can stand guard for you for a moment while you take it. In any case, it won't cause much of a delay." "No, no, no." The round-faced woman waved her hands quickly and whispered, "I have another use for this extraordinary treasure pill." A light flashed across Xianxia's eyes before he nodded lightly. "Then sister should do as she pleases. Many thanks for exchanging for this spirit pill with me. And you're a good person." The round-faced woman smiled sweetly at Xianxia before turning around and directly walking out. Looking at her back, Xianxia sighed helplessly. He had said what should be said, but the other party refused to accept his advice and insisted on taking the extraordinary treasure pill away. Obviously, this would cause some trouble. In fact, the best way to handle the extraordinary treasure pill was to take it directly, which would result in others losing interest in snatching it. The only other viable option was to have strength on par with Wu Chang or Xiao Chen's, enough to deter others from having unnecessary ideas. Xianxia could easily predict the trouble this round-faced woman would soon encounter. Sure enough, things turned out just as he expected. Even before this young woman walked out of the shattered space, a number of people flew at her from all directions with unkind intentions. Although in front of everyone's eyes, acting so disgracefully was truly disgusting, since it was related to an extraordinary treasure pill which represented the hope of reaching the Emperor realm. These favored sons and daughters of heaven, from major sects and families, set aside their face in order to rob this round-faced woman. The round-faced woman seemed to have also realized the predicament she was in and, smelling the scent of death approaching, she flicked her hand and summoned a ribbon-like artifact. Walking forward, she called out softly, "Fellow brothers and sister, junior sister does not wish to become enemies with any of you. If you can find it in your hearts, please do not create difficulties for me." She spoke sincerely and with great dignity. There were indeed a few people who were affected by her speech and showed looks of reluctance, but most simply stared indifferently at her. Within the few breaths it took her to say these words, the young woman had already walked out of the area enveloped by Xianxia's space principles. Suddenly, a burst of shouts rang out one after another. "Hand over the extraordinary treasure pill. Hand over the spirit pill and we'll spare your life. Girl, cooperate with me obediently and you won't have to suffer. Refuse and you cannot blame us for not showing mercy." With the sound of these voices, at least a dozen cultivators rushed towards her. The moment these people acted, they summoned their artifacts and used secret techniques in all different directions, intending to block their competitors while also closing in on the round-faced woman at an extremely fast speed. A hint of panic flashed on the pretty face of this young woman, but at the critical moment, She managed to push her source chi violently and the ribbon in her hand flashed, creating a 5-colored barrier around her body, after which she shot up into the sky and rushed outwards. She obviously didn't plan to fight with these people and just wanted to leave here as quickly as possible. This was undoubtedly the correct approach. But she was obviously too naive. How could she alone resist the assault of so many people? Hong hong hong. After a muffled explosion, the figure of the round-faced woman was directly revealed and her petite body was sent falling to the ground like a meteorite. Immediately afterwards, a dozen figures flew down after her, greed and excitement covering their faces. The round-faced woman suddenly showed a look of despair. Soon, she hit the ground, and although she was not severely injured, she was obviously not all right either. After struggling a few times, she finally managed to stand up, but it was too late. Several of her faster pursuers had already approached her, the fastest of which held a sharp sword that he slashed fiercely at her right hand. This man was ruthless and showed no pity, seemingly only wanting to quickly cut off the hand of the round-faced woman that was holding the spirit pill. With no way out, the woman screamed, her face pale and bloodless. With her second-order Tao Source Realm cultivation, she couldn't avoid this strike, and it was inevitable she would lose her arm. As for the man, he wore a victorious smirk on his face, as if the extraordinary treasure pill was already in his hands. As long as he could obtain the extraordinary treasure pill, he would eat it immediately, eliminating the hope others had of snatching it. Yang Kai's complexion became gloomy as he secretly began pushing his space force, preparing to save the woman at the last moment. But before Yang Kai could act, a figure mysteriously appeared in front of the round-faced woman. This figure was broad and heroic, like a tall mountain that could resist violent storms and rain, making the round-faced woman hiding behind it feel a sense of peace and comfort she had never felt before. Yang Kai raised his brow as he observed this figure, a look of surprise filling his face. He didn't expect that, at this critical moment, this person would actually make a move. Could it be? He is also trying to snatch the extraordinary treasure pill. Just as this thought flashed across Yang Kai's mind, this newcomer suddenly pushed his hand out. His movements weren't fast, but they gave off a profound feeling, causing the sword-wielding man's expression to change drastically, as if he was being enveloped by the grasp of death. He wanted to avoid this palm, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape. From an outside perspective, it was as if this man had slammed himself into his opponent's attack. After a short while, the big hand directly pinched the neck of the sword-holding cultivator. Under the horrified gaze of this man, the owner of the hand holding his throat smiled grimly as he began condensing his source chi fiercely. With a crisp sound, the neck of the sword-wielding cultivator was directly crushed and his head drooped softly. Gasps sounded as all the cultivators rushing towards the round-faced woman stopped in amazement, staring at the master of the big hand in horror, with shock on their faces. They were all Tao Source Realm cultivators, but the owner of this large hand had just casually reached out and killed one of them. This brutal and violent way of killing, crushing another with overwhelming strength, was naturally shocking. Luo Yuan, someone shouted loudly. It was none other than Luo Yuan of Eight Paths Sect, a previously unknown figure before the opening of the Four Seasons realm. Over just a few dozen days, though, this young man's prestige and fame had risen enough for him to be ranked amongst the top rising stars of the Southern Territory. And he had the strength and capital to warrant such a reputation. To a certain extent, Luo Yuan and Wu Chang were similar, both of them ferocious and brutal, people no one wanted to provoke. At this moment, though, Luo Yuan was actually standing in front of the round-faced woman and had even killed a man. How could the remaining cultivators dare to move? The extraordinary treasure pill was indeed precious, but one needed their life first to enjoy it. Luo Yuan, do you want to snatch this extraordinary treasure pill too? This was the question on everyone's mind. If it was true, Luo Yuan would become the greatest enemy of everyone here, for if he was not dealt with, no one would be able to obtain the extraordinary treasure pill. This was also quite possible, as a treasure as precious as the extraordinary treasure pill would be coveted by anyone. So Luo Yuan coming to snatch it was understandable. Xiao Chun, Wu Chang, Xia Shang, and the other peak-level characters did not take action so far. On the one hand, they were concerned about their sex and their own face, while on the other hand, they probably disdained to act this way, but Luo Yuan was different. His 8 Paths sect was only a medium-sized sect, so he had no such scruples. He was not well known before now and could act however he pleased without worrying about his reputation. For a time, everyone's expressions turned gloomy as they secretly grumbled to themselves. However, what happened next surprised everyone. "Luo! Senior brother Luo?" A weak voice called out from behind Luo Yuan. Naturally, it was the round-faced woman. Senior brother? Could it be that? No way! At that moment, all the cultivators who had previously attacked the round-faced woman began sweating and turning pale. A few of the more timid ones even began to shiver. Judging by the way the round-faced woman addressed Luo Yuan, everyone vaguely realized that these two belonged to the same sect. That is to say, this round-faced woman was also a disciple of 8 Paths sect, bullying Luo Yuan's junior sister right in front of his face. How could he just let such an offense go? However, this way, everyone also understood why Luo Yuan had taken action just now, not only that, but why he had been ruthless enough to kill someone directly. For a time, the dozen or so cultivators wore anxious looks as they glanced around at each other worriedly. "Brother Luo, this one was unaware that this sister was from your noble sect and has accidentally offended her. Please forgive me." One person stepped forward with a forced smile on his face, cupped his fists, and spoke to Luo Yuan. "Brother Luo, this is all just a misunderstanding, a big misunderstanding." Yes, if I had known that this sister was related to Brother Luo, I would not have dared to act so aggressively. The group of people all began apologizing profusely, lest Luo Yuan decide to settle accounts with them here and now. Luo Yuan swept his eyes across the crowd coldly before he shouted, "A group of trash! Scram!" Although these words weren't pleasing to hear, everyone scurried away as if they had just been granted amnesty. Senior brother Luo? On the contrary, it was the round-faced woman who did not feel any joy after being rescued, instead just staring towards Luo Yuan's back with anxiety as she called out softly, "What did I tell you?" Luo Yuan turned around and glared at her coldly. "After entering the Four Seasons realm, I am me, you are you, don't make trouble for me. Have you forgotten?" No. The round-faced woman waved her hands quickly, as if she wanted to explain something. But when she met Luo Yuan's frigid eyes, she couldn't help lowering her head and biting her lip. "I'm sorry. Next time, you're on your own." Luo Yuan snorted coldly. "I understand." The round-faced woman kept her head down as she gripped her clothes tightly, like a child who had done something wrong. "Humph. Put your best into it." Luo Yuan snorted coldly and turned to leave. "Wait!" The round-faced woman quickly reached out and grabbed Luo Yuan's sleeve. "What?" Luo Yuan frowned as he snapped impatiently. "This is for you." The round-faced woman raised her head, squeezed out a smile, and held the extraordinary treasure pill she had just obtained from Xianxia out to Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan's expression turned to one of shock as he stared at the round-faced woman in a daze. A breeze blew past as the crowd atop the mountain fell completely silent. So, she planned to gift it? Xianxia looked at this scene and muttered to himself, and to Luo Yuan at that. When the woman exchanged for the extraordinary treasure pill with him earlier, she said that she had another use for the spirit pill. Xianxia didn't know what she was planning at the time, but now everything was clear. She hadn't tried to obtain the extraordinary treasure pill for herself, but for Luo Yuan. And from beginning to the end, she had not revealed her intentions. Even when she was being besieged by many people, she did not ask Luo Yuan for help. Only after she was safe did she willingly try to offer up the spirit pill, which all Dao Source Realm cultivators coveted, to Luo Yuan. Everyone could see that this young woman was looking at Luo Yuan with soft eyes filled with clear love and worship. Her expression and demeanor told everyone that she was willing to offer her everything for Luo Yuan. So what did a mere extraordinary treasure pill count for? At this moment, the round-faced woman seemed to shine dazzlingly, and Luo Yuan, who was pierced by this light, couldn't help having his face twitch as he had difficulty looking straight ahead. "Ah! Another woman who lost herself in love. No one can save her now, Xianxia said with emotion. Morong Xiao Xiao, who was standing next to him, was already greatly moved, tears crystallizing at the corners of her beautiful eyes. No one able to tell what she was thinking. Ha! What a terrible farce. And everyone else making so much fuss over it. Xiao Bai said coldly. Senior brother. Morong Xiao Xiao glared at him. He. On the other side, Lan Sun also seemed to have some feelings about this as she pursed her lips and smiled. I really didn't expect someone would adore Luo Yuan like this. Some cheap, disgraceful tricks, Xiao Chan said sourly from the side, looking at the round-faced woman with a tinge of pity. Unfortunately, she fell in love with someone like Luo Yuan. This woman must be blind. What's wrong? Lan Sun turned his head and glanced at him. You believe this kind of display is somehow disgraceful? I didn't mean that. Please don't misunderstand, princess. Xiao Chun quickly adjusted his expression, turning a tender look to Lan Sun as he declared solemnly, if I had obtained an extraordinary treasure pill, I would definitely— I've already taken one. Lan Sun interrupted him impatiently before he could finish his cheap words. Xiao Chun murmured, I just wanted to express that. What are your intentions here? In front of everyone's eyes though, Luo Yuan, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly shouted, I don't have any other meaning. The round-faced woman didn't know why Luo Yuan looked angry, and she couldn't help but panic as she tried to explain. I just wanted to give senior brother this extraordinary treasure pill. To give it to me? Luo Yuan sneered. The round-faced woman nodded heavily. Nonsense. Luo Yuan didn't show the slightest appreciation and instead laughed. What? You thought you could make me feel indebted to you by giving me this extraordinary treasure pill. At this point, his face turned harsh as he shouted, Listen well. This Luo Yuan will not be bound by anything or anyone. Not by you, not by Eight Paths sect, not by heaven itself. I, Luo Yuan, will eventually stand at the pinnacle of this world, rule supreme, and look down upon all the world's heroes. I didn't. The round-faced woman turned anxious as tears began forming in her eyes. Anxiously, she tried to call out, save your breath. I have no interest in this extraordinary treasure pill. Even without this spirit pill, I will still break through to the Emperor realm. Luo Yuan snorted coldly. You'd best discard any wicked ideas you might have, or don't blame me for disregarding our status as fellow disciples. Hearing this, the round-faced woman finally burst into tears. Falling silent, 2 lines of tears fell down her cheeks, like broken pearls. Her beautiful eyes filled with innocence and heartache. That bastard! Xiaoshang looked at this scene and couldn't help cursing. The sacrifice this round-faced woman was making was simply amazing. After all, as a Dao Source Realm cultivator, the extraordinary treasure pill was extremely useful to her, and if she were to take it now, her hopes of breaking through to the Emperor realm would definitely increase dramatically. This was a major event that was related to her very future. But she disregarded all of that without hesitation and only thought about gifting this extraordinary treasure pill to Luo Yuan. Even just now, in order to not cause trouble for Luo Yuan. Even though she was facing grave danger, she didn't cry out for help, putting herself in such a position simply for the sake of another. This woman's love for Luo Yuan could not be any more obvious. Any normal man would have been greatly moved by this kind of devotion. Even the most stoic and ignorant of men would have shown some tenderness. However, Luo Yuan only reacted with fierce hostility, which naturally caused Xia Shang to be extremely dissatisfied. Even if Luo Yuan didn't want to accept this extraordinary treasure pill, he didn't need to act so cruelly. Waste! Morong Xiao Xiao cast a contemptuous look towards Luo Yuan without the slightest hesitation. A terrible farce indeed. Xiao Chun smiled lightly, his true thoughts difficult to read. Luo Yuan did not stop, however, and shouted once more. Let's end this nonsense now. The spirit pill. You eat it. As he spoke, his figure flickered and he moved right in front of the round-faced woman, stretched out his hand to pinch her cheeks, then snatched the extraordinary treasure pill with his free hand and threw it into her mouth. Cough, cough, cough. The round-faced woman felt the spirit pill enter her belly and couldn't help but back up a few steps. She coughed and beat her chest constantly, as if she wanted to vomit up the spirit pill. But that was futile. After the spirit pill entered her stomach, it directly melted and began flowing into her abdomen. She tried hard to stop all this for a while, but ultimately failed and raised her head in despair. However, when she lifted her eyes, Luo Yuan was gone. He left? Lan Sun looked at the round-faced woman and sighed slightly. He is headed towards the exit. The round-faced woman heard this, turned her head, and saw a stream of light flying off towards the exit. Luo Yuan actually didn't even bother trying to trade with Yang Kai. It seemed that in order to prove his words about his aptitude, and that he could break through to the Emperor realm on his own, he intended to give up this opportunity to obtain an extraordinary treasure pill. Senior brother Luo, the round-faced woman called out, grit her teeth, stomped her foot, and chased after Luo Yuan. Watching this, no one tried to embarrass her further. Firstly, she was a disciple of the Eight Paths sect, and she had a senior brother-junior sister relationship with Luo Yuan, who had already killed one man who had acted against her. Secondly, the extraordinary treasure pill had already been taken by her. So what point was there to embarrass this woman? Would it be possible to force her to spit up that spirit pill? And so, this brief episode came to an end. It's like he said, not wanting to be bound by a favor from others, or snatching an opportunity that belongs to others. Yang Kai sat in place, stroking his chin thoughtfully. With so many people present, perhaps everyone only saw Luo Yuan's ruthlessness and ferocity. But Yang Kai saw something else. When he was dealing with the round-faced woman earlier, before the trade was even concluded, Luo Yuan had actually yelled at him from a distance, telling him to not go too far. Yang Kai didn't understand why Luo Yuan did that at the time, but now it was obvious he had been trying to help that round-faced woman. If Luo Yuan really had no interest in her, then there would have been no need for him to say those words. While she was trying to strike a deal with Yang Kai, Luo Yuan only needed to sit on the sidelines. What's more, how could someone as proud and arrogant as Luo Yuan accept gifts from others? Especially when the gift was from his junior sister, one that clearly loves and admires him. Yang Kai felt that if he was in Luo Yuan's position, it would be impossible to accept that extraordinary treasure pill. A true man should hold such convictions. Although he disapproved of Luo Yuan's rotten method of handling his junior sister, Yang Kai actually appreciated his decisive approach. After thinking for a while, Yang Kai shook his head as a frown came to his brow and he secretly thought, "Why am I allowing someone else's affairs to trouble me?" Thinking so, he shouted, "Next!" Maybe because the round-faced woman's success made the remaining cultivators see hope. As soon as Yang Kai called out, cultivators swarmed towards him. But under the influence of the twisted space principles, only one person was allowed to enter at a time. Unfortunately for this man, the result was disappointing as Yang Kai swiftly checked what he took out before shooing him away. The next dozen people had similar experiences. When Yang Kai took a leisurely look around, he found that there were not many people left. This secretly made him anxious, because the tribulation fruit he wanted hadn't appeared so far. It wasn't clear whether someone hadn't taken it out to trade, or if the one who had the tribulation fruit hadn't come to begin with. If Yang Kai failed to obtain the tribulation fruit on this excursion to the Four Seasons realm, he really didn't know how he could explain it to Qin Zhaoyang. Qin Yu's life depended on him acquiring the tribulation fruit. Without it, that little girl would only have a few months left to live. Should I just directly request to exchange the tribulation fruit for an extraordinary treasure pill? Yang Kai hesitated. If he really made such a request, and if the person who had the tribulation fruit was present, that person would definitely not refuse, but if that person wasn't here and news spread out, it would definitely cause many troubles from him. After thinking about it carefully, Yang Kai suppressed this idea and continued to trade with other people calmly. After an hour, Yang Kai's face became gloomy, because almost every cultivator present had come to trade with him, but he had yet to see a trace of the tribulation fruit. His ill premonition had come true. The only people that were left were the ones from Azure Sun Temple and the few famous masters who had been waiting and watching up until now. Having reached this point, Yang Kai didn't want to delay any more and shouted, "Who will come first? I won't conceal it from you. The total number of extraordinary treasure pills that were refined was 4. In other words, this Yang only has 1 left. One of them was taken by him, 1 was given to Lan Sun, and 1 was given to the round-faced woman, so with only 4 being refined, only 1 remained." As he made this announcement, Yang Kai picked up his black jade furnace and shook it slightly. From the black jade furnace, a rolling, clinking sound rang out. Inferring from the sound, there was indeed only 1 pill inside. After the refinement succeeded, all of Yang Kai's actions had been witnessed by everyone's eyes, so he had no opportunity or time to hide any of the spirit pills, leading everyone to trust this statement. Since there is only 1 pill left, then this Xiao will come. Xiao Chun, who had held back for a long time, at this moment finally took his turn. Leaping out swiftly, he strode towards Yang Kai with a confident smile, seemingly confident he would obtain this last spirit pill. Not long after, he arrived in front of Yang Kai. Yang Kai looked at him with a smile and said, "Brother Xiao, please." Xiao Chun sneered, and while taking out something from his space ring, he whispered in a low voice, "Little brat, I advise you to accept this immediately, and then hand over that extraordinary treasure pill to this Xiao. That way everyone can remain friendly." Yang Kai heard this and looked up at him. Xiao Chun continued with a smile on his face. "The things that this Xiao took out are not items just anyone can see. There should be something that satisfies you." Despite the insufferable arrogance with which he spoke, Xiao Chun had the capital to say such things. After all, he not only came from the Southern Territory's overlord, Star Soul Palace. He was an elite disciple of that sect and also the son of Silver Star envoy, Xiao Yuyang. The things he took out were indeed rare treasures. Whether they were artifacts or herbs, treasures, or even secret arts, it was a dazzling and varied array. Yang Kai, however, didn't even glance at those things and simply asked, "Brother Xiao, did you enter the realm of winter during this opening of the 4 Seasons realm?" Xiao Chun heard this and furrowed his brow, not knowing why Yang Kai had asked such a question. Replying impatiently, he spat, "No, this Xiao has always been accompanying Her Highness. Princess said that the environment in the realm of winter was too barren. If so, you can pack up your things and go." Yang Kai waved his hand as he cut off Xiao Chen. "What did you just say?" Xiao Chen's face suddenly became gloomy as he glared at Yang Kai fiercely, the threatening tone in his voice more than evident. "Did you not hear me clearly?" Yang Kai grinned, cracking his neck before leaning towards Xiao Chun and shouting, "Brother Xiao can go." After this shout, he leaned back and smiled slightly. "If you still couldn't hear me, there's nothing more I can do." Xiao Chen's expression turned ugly as it went from red to white before he shouted in a low tone, "Boy, have you considered the consequences of your actions clearly?" In front of everyone's eyes, he was humiliated by Yang Kai like this. What was worse, though, was that everyone now knew he didn't have what Yang Kai wanted. So continuing to entangle himself would only lead everyone to believe he was trying to bully Yang Kai. However, Yang Kai wasn't going to give him any face. Scram! Yang Kai spat disdainfully, without a trace of politeness, and pushed the surrounding space principles towards Xiao Chun, wanting to throw him out of this shattered space forcefully. Although Yang Kai had used this trick to directly send out a Dao Source Realm cultivator before, when it came to Xiao Chun, things did not go so smoothly. There was an inexplicable principle strength that lingered around Xiao Chun, clashing with the surrounding space principles, causing his figure to flicker slightly while remaining in place. This situation lasted for 10 breaths before Xiao Chun took the initiative to withdraw. If he continued to linger, he would be forced to fight with Yang Kai, and in that strange shattered space, Xiao Chun also felt the threat of death, so he did not dare to remain. After escaping 300 meters, Xiao Chun glared at Yang Kai with a gloomy face, gnashing his teeth for a while. Ha! Seeing this scene, Lan Sun only felt a headache coming on, and after sighing, she turned around and flew off towards the exit. When Xiao Chun saw this, his face twitched before he turned and shouted at Yang Kai, "Boy, I'll remember you. You'd best pray you don't fall into my hands one day." Leaving this threat, he chased after Lan Sun. Yang Kai turned a deaf ear to these words and turned to Xiaoshang and the others with a smile. Brother Xia, there's really just one spirit pill left. Don't you want to come and see it? If possible, he would like to trade with Xiaoshang for this spirit pill. Yang Kai knew he couldn't bring the spirit pill out of the Four Seasons realm, as the only result would be the Emperor's outside snatching it from him while giving him some paltry compensation. As for giving it away, Yang Kai had never considered it. For one thing, he and Xiaoshang weren't actually that close, and there was no friendship between them. What's more, with the extraordinary treasure pill being so precious, even if Yang Kai offered it to Xiaoshang for free, the latter would not be willing to accept it. If Xiaoshang took this extraordinary treasure pill without offering proper compensation, it would mean owing Yang Kai a huge favor. Hearing this call, Xiaoshang smiled and said, "We don't need it." Yang Kai was shocked and asked curiously, "What do you mean?" Xiaoshang said, "Brother Yang, you want to trade for that spirit fruit, right?" What he was referring to was, naturally, the tribulation fruit. Yang Kai had entered the Four Seasons realm to find the tribulation fruit was no secret in Azure Sun Temple, because before leaving, Gao Shueting had told everyone that if any of them found the tribulation fruit, they should collect it to exchange with Yang Kai. With Gao Shueting's reminder, plus Yang Kai's emphasis on letting everyone take out their harvest from the Four Seasons realm before the transaction, Xiaoshang naturally knew what he was looking for. Unfortunately, judging from the current situation, Yang Kai had not managed to achieve his goal. "Yeah." Yang Kai did not deny and nodded lightly. "None of us have it, so we won't join in the fun," Xiaoshang smiled. "Besides, if we really offered to exchange it with you, it would likely be impossible for you to refuse no matter what else we offered, which would leave a bad taste. It's fine, Brother Yang. You should ask Wu Chang if he has it." Apart from Xiaoshang and the others from Azure Sun Temple, only Wu Chang remained here. Hearing this, Wu Chang also took the initiative to stand up and ask Yang Kai, "What spirit fruit do you want?" Yang Kai groaned slightly but decided to tell the truth. "The tribulation fruit." Wu Chang frowned and said, "Never seen it. Even you don't have it." Yang Kai couldn't help showing a disappointed look. He didn't know when the tribulation fruit from the realm of winter was picked, who had it, or where it was. So it looked like his primary objective for coming to the Four Seasons realm could no longer be achieved. Yang Kai suddenly had a deep feeling of regret. "Although I don't have what you want, I still want to make a deal with you." Wu Chang quickly said, "You can't take that extraordinary treasure pill out, can you?" "Naturally not." Yang Kai composed himself and said, "Brother Wu Chang wanting to make a trade is fine, but I wonder what you're willing to take out." "This." Wu Chang took out a jade bottle and threw it towards Yang Kai. He didn't seem worried at all that Yang Kai would try to steal this treasure and run away, trusting him to the point where he directly handed over what he wanted to trade. Yang Kai was startled when he saw this and quickly dispersed the space principles which had been lingering about him. Catching the jade bottle in his hand, Yang Kai glanced suspiciously at Wu Chang. "If you open it and take a look, you'll know what it is," Wu Chang said lightly. Yang Kai opened the bottle and peered inside, his face changing slightly in the next instant as he commented, "Brother Wu Chang is quite bold." Wu Chang sneered, "I will break through to the Emperor realm soon, so this thing is not necessary to me. But you're only a first-order Dao source realm now and won't reach the Emperor realm anytime soon. This thing will be of great use to you, possibly even saving your life at a critical moment." "It is as Brother Wu Chang says." Yang Kai had already capped the jade bottle as he spoke. Xiaoshang and the others looked confused, wondering what Wu Chang had handed over to Yang Kai to move him so greatly. Morong Xiao, however, suddenly seemed to be thinking of something and muttered, "Could it be that—" "What?" Xiaoshang, who was always curious, asked Morong Xiao in a low voice. Xiao Bai also showed a look of interest as he perked up his ears. Morong Xiao whispered, "An Emperor Authority bead. See." Xiaoshang drew a sharp breath. That bastard Wu Chang had such a thing? As he spoke, a look of fear flashed across his face as cold sweat dripped down on his forehead. If that guy had summoned his Emperor Authority bead at that time, wouldn't I be dead? A third-order Emperor's full-powered strike was sealed in an Emperor Authority bead. So although Xiaoshang was a genius in his own right, he had no confidence he could survive such a blow. Death or serious injury were the only possible outcomes, with the former being much more likely. After thinking about this, though, Xiaoshang's brow furrowed as he said with a puzzled look, "Wait, Xiao. How do you know that Wu Chong had an Emperor Authority bead in his hands?" Before Murong Xiao spoke, Xiao Bai inferred. Because when Wu Chong obtained that Emperor Authority bead, Xiao was there. Xia Sheng heard this and his face slightly changed, calling out in a low voice, "Could it be that this Emperor Authority bead was obtained by Wu Chong in the Four Seasons realm?" "Yeah." Murong Xiao nodded. "He got it from a trade with Luo Yuan. Didn't I tell you before that I entered the Flowing Time Temple with Senior Brother Xiao? It was there in the final room. That's where Luo Yuan obtained the Emperor Authority bead." "Were there any other treasures there?" Xia Xing asked with interest. "What did you obtain?" "I got a drop of supreme divine water." Murong Xiao smiled. "Even that was thanks to Junior Brother Yang. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been able to obtain anything. As for the others, Princess Lan Sun took one away, a pseudo-emperor artifact, while Gong Wenshan obtained an emperor aura. The heavens must be jealous." Xia Shang looked up to the sky in grief and indignation. "Why didn't I meet such an opportunity?" Xiao Bai squinted at him and said, "Humph, you were the one who insisted on exploring the realm of spring, saying it was sunny and beautiful there. Seems like I made a mistake." Xiaosheng bowed his head, looking downcast, but immediately he recovered and asked, "Wait, you said Yang Kai helped you obtain that drop of supreme divine water. Then what about him? Did he also get something?" "Junior Brother Yang, he obtained some kind of red bead," Murong Xiao replied. "But I don't know what the bead is for. Even Princess Lan Sun couldn't tell what it was." "A red bead?" Xia Sheng frowned after hearing this. As the few of them were talking, Wu Chong was impatiently urging, "Are you satisfied with this thing?" Yang Kai held the jade bottle containing the Emperor Authority bead and grinned. "Admittedly, this thing is truly precious, a life-saving treasure. It is quite tempting." This was an Emperor Authority bead. Although Yang Kai's strength was decent, and he was proficient in the Tao of space, his cultivation was still low. In the star boundary, where masters floated about like clouds and danger lay around every corner, there would likely be many situations where his ability was lacking. At such times, an Emperor Authority bead would offer a layer of safety, so how could Yang Kai not be interested? This thing was probably one of the most valuable items in the entire Four Seasons realm. Even the Emperor Aura that Gong Wenshan obtained was not comparable. An Emperor Aura could be used to refine an Emperor artifact, but Yang Kai already had several Emperor artifacts in his hand, so an Emperor Aura had almost no attraction to him. "You want something more?" Wu Chong frowned as he read the meaning behind Yang Kai's words. "Let's hear it. If it's not too much, I can accept it." "Brother Wu Chong, it is refreshing to speak with you." Yang Kai laughed out loud. People like Wu Chong and Luo Yuan, regardless of their hot tempers, were actually the easiest to cooperate with, because they did not try to hide their intentions or motivations at all. If they thought something, they would speak it boldly rather than trying to deceive you. Yang Kai followed up, "This thing is indeed precious, but Brother Wu Chong should also know that it is a consumable item. Once it is used, it is gone forever." "Enough. I know its advantages and disadvantages. Just tell me what you want." Wu Chong interrupted Yang Kai before he finished speaking, directly telling him to name a price. Yang Kai hesitantly touched his nose. "Brother Yang, if you don't mind, this Xia has a suggestion." Xia Shang suddenly interjected. "What do you want?" Wu Chong looked at him irritably. Xia Shang said innocently, "I just want to make a suggestion to Brother Yang. It's up to him if he wants to listen or not. What's wrong with that?" Yang Kai smiled lightly and said, "If Brother Xia has a suggestion, please feel free to speak it." And Xiaosheng nodded before he turned to Wu Chong and said meaningfully, "Brother Wu Chong seems to have obtained a lot of star seals in the Four Seasons realm this time, so perhaps Brother Yang can." Hearing this, Yang Kai raised his brow, immediately understanding what Xiaosheng wanted to say. Wu Chong frowned. Xiaosheng continued, Before coming here, Elder Gao once said that all the disciples who obtained extra star seals could receive rewards from the sect after turning them over, and the more one turns over, the greater the reward. Brother Yang is not a disciple of my temple, but this deal also applies to you. If you can obtain more star seals, you can make a bigger request from the temple, like for instance, asking the sect master and elders to help you find that tribulation fruit. Hearing this, Yang Kai's eyes lit up as he felt this was a good idea. He had been unable to complete the task he came to the Four Seasons realm to achieve, which made him quite embarrassed about returning to Maplewood City to deal with Qin Zhaoyang. If he could ask the leaders of Azure Sun Temple to help him though, obtaining the tribulation fruit may still be possible. In short, Yang Kai was quite interested in this proposal. Humph! Wu Chang snorted coldly. What is this? You want to use this method to reduce the quotas my orthodoxy temple has to enter the Shattered Star Sea? Does Brother Xia have so little confidence in his own sect? Not at all. Xiaxia smiled and said, I'm just thinking about what's best for Brother Yang. Nothing like what you said. I don't care either way. Whether others from Orthodoxy Temple can enter the Shattered Star Sea or not is none of my concern, as long as I can enter myself. Oh! Xiaxia raised his brows and said, Brother Wu Chang means that as long as you have a single star seal, you can discard the rest. That depends on his intentions. Wu Chang turned his gaze to Yang Kai. Yang Kai replied, Let me ask first, Brother Wu Chang, how many star seals do you have? 5. Quite a lot. Yang Kai exclaimed before nodding. Good, since Brother Wu Chang is so sincere, then this Yang is willing to make this deal with you. But I still have one question. Ask. Wu Chang said concisely. How are you going to give me those star seals? I can transfer them to you with a certain secret technique. Wu Chang answered naturally. Yang Kai's face went black when he heard this and asked, Then when I saw you outside the Flowing Time Temple earlier, why did you insist on cutting off my arm? Do you know the necessary secret technique? Wu Chang asked disdainfully. I don't. Yang Kai answered honestly. Then cutting off your arm is the only way. Wu Chang coldly snorted. Makes sense. Yang Kai said lightly. Enough nonsense. Let's complete the transaction first. Saying so, Wu Chang's figure flickered and he rushed over to Yang Kai directly, his hands forming a set of seals as he pushed his source chi. The scene in the nameless mountain valley remained desolate as the oval light door hung midair. Cultivators continued exiting from the light door, some with big smiles, making it obvious that they had gained a great harvest in the Four Seasons realm, while others had their heads lowered in depression, seeming like they weren't very satisfied with their gains. No matter what their expressions were previously like, their expressions all instantly changed when they exited the door of light as chills shot up their spines and they broke out into a cold sweat. This couldn't be helped, because at this moment, 6 Emperor Realm Masters were standing together in a line, watching the exit with fierce gazes. Whenever someone walked out of the door, 6 Emperor Realm Divine Senses would simultaneously cover that person. Who would be able to withstand such pressure? Luckily, the 6 Emperors had no malicious intent and were simply probing, so the pressure would disappear as fast as it came. Most didn't know what these 6 masters were trying to do here, so they would hurriedly flee after leaving the exit, but some intelligent people had already guessed why these emperors were guarding the exit in such a manner. Just like this, the 6 Emperor Realm Masters kept a vigilant watch over the exit for half a day. Suddenly, a certain figure appeared from the door of light that had remained silent for quite a while. The 6 emperors immediately focused their attention on this figure. The figure didn't expect this, but his reaction was incredibly quick, immediately circulating his source chi and spiritual energy to resist the tremendous pressure he faced. However, he then started furrowing his brow in confusion because he discovered that the pressure coming from his front actually came from the various major sects elders. Good, good, good. Feng Ming from the Orthodoxy Temple kept muttering the word good, with a smile as he watched Wu Chang emerge from the Four Seasons realm before stating, Wu Chang, you can go over to the side. Wu Chang had a contemplative expression flash through his eyes when he heard this before he obediently walked over to the side and stood there. 3 figures immediately followed after Wu Chang. They were Xiaxiang's group of 3 from Azure Sun Temple. Xiaxiang immediately started sweating when he appeared. Seniors, what's going on? Could it be you're here to welcome me? How could this junior possibly deserve such? This king will toss you back in if you keep blabbering. Xiao Yuyang coldly snorted. Xiaxiang shrank his neck and didn't dare to make a sound, hurriedly taking Xiao Bai and Murong Xiao over to the side. After these 3 came out, Yang Kai finally appeared from the exit. Gao Shueting couldn't help but lightly sigh as she muttered in a low voice. He finally came out. This little brat is the one? Xiao Yuyang turned to ask Gao Shueting. Gao Shueting gently nodded. Very good. Xiao Yuyang laughed loudly. Making this king wait for so long. I really want to see if this boy has 3 heads and 6 arms. As he spoke, he opened his hand and immediately opened his palm towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai hadn't even gotten his bearings after exiting the portal before he felt a tremendous pressure descending from above. The force was so powerful that it was impossible for him to even think of resisting, and right after, he was actually pulled over in front of Xiao Yuyang. What's going on? Yang Kai exclaimed loudly with an expression of astonishment. His first thought was that someone had ambushed him, but when he looked around, he saw the 6 Emperor Realm Masters all staring at him with heated expressions, almost like 6 perverts feasting their eyes on a naked beauty. Even Gao Shueting had the same expression. Yang Kai surprisingly recognized all 6. Naturally, there was no need to mention Gao Shueting and Xiao Yuyang, but even the other 4 were familiar to him as he had seen them in Maplewood City before. After some slight contemplation, Yang Kai basically understood what was currently going on. Although he had mentally prepared himself before, he still felt rather helpless now that it actually happened. What's the meaning of this? What are you doing? Yang Kai began to shout and struggle. Don't be afraid. We won't hurt you. Gao Shueting tried to console him. Let's talk things out if you have something to say. Gentlemen should use words, not fists. It's always better to make friends than enemies. Who knows who will rise up to become strong in the future? You shouldn't bully someone while they're young and weak. Yang Kai kept chattering endlessly. Little brat, you talk too much. Xiao Yuyang coldly snorted as he grabbed Yang Kai. Yang Kai wasn't even able to react as Xiao Yuyang snatched the space ring from his hand. You're robbing me? Yang Kai was astonished as he glared at Xiao Yuyang and exclaimed, bullying the weak when you're strong. Bullying a junior as a senior. Is this the law of this land? Xiao Yuyang's divine sense was currently sweeping Yang Kai's space ring, but that didn't interfere with his ability to think. So hearing this, he snorted condescendingly and coldly chuckled. The law of this land? This king is the law here. Do you have any objections? If that is what senior thinks? Yang Kai shrugged helplessly and said, then I can't do anything. As long as you understand. Xiao Yuyang then ignored Yang Kai and instead focused on investigating the ring. Moments later, he furrowed his brow and tossed the ring over to Feng Ming, who was next to him. Feng Ming took the ring and also started investigating it. At this moment, Xiao Yuyang focused on Yang Kai again with an inscrutable gaze that seemed as deep as an abyss. This was a gaze that made chills run down the spine and would cause one to lack the courage to face him. It seemed as if he wanted to see deep inside Yang Kai's heart and unearth the secrets hidden within. Yang Kai felt uncomfortable all over from Xiao Yuyang's stare, as if millions of ants had entered his body and were nipping at his flesh. Still, Yang Kai had been lucky enough to have previously experienced the aura of a Third-Order Emperor Realm Master, and had even fought against 3 First-Order Emperor Realm Masters before. So Xiao Yuyang was actually a bit overconfident to think that he could suppress Yang Kai's will with just a sharp gaze. Of course, this wasn't Xiao Yuyang's fault, as no ordinary First-Order Dao Source Realm Junior would possibly be able to think about anything when being stared at by him. Such an individual's consciousness would be thrown into chaos already, and they would answer anything that they were asked. However, it just so happened that Yang Kai had been through even greater storms before. Little brat, this king can see that you're a smart person, so you should already know why we are waiting here? Xiao Yuyang took the direct approach with his words. I can guess? Yang Kai couldn't act like a fool in this situation, so he could only say this. turning a frightened look towards Xiao Yuyang as he asked, "Is it for the extraordinary treasure pills?" "It's good that you already know." Xiao Yuyang spoke solemnly. Naturally, the masters were waiting here because of the extraordinary treasure pills. The cultivators who first emerged from the Four Seasons realm had spread the news of how an extraordinary treasure lotus appeared in the Four Seasons realm, along with how Yang Kai had successfully refined it into pills. Xiao Yuyang and the others were naturally incredibly astonished to learn of this news. The extraordinary treasure pill was a heaven-defying spirit pill that, if used well, could create a new Emperor Realm Master. The Emperors present would, of course, pay close attention to this with how important it was. If it wasn't for being afraid that they would cause the entrance to collapse, they would have long ago rushed into the Four Seasons realm instead of giving Yang Kai time to trade away such precious pills. They had waited here all this time just to meet Yang Kai in person, so of course, they were going to demand a detailed explanation. "Where are the extra extraordinary treasure pills? Hand them over." Xiao Yuyang immediately reached his hand out towards Yang Kai. "What extras? They're all gone." Yang Kai shouted with an innocent expression on his face. Xiao Yuyang once again adopted an authoritative posture as he spoke in a cold tone. "You should know that with your strength. This king can easily discern if you're lying or not. Yes? I'm telling the truth. If you don't believe me, you can ask Brother Wu Chang and Brother Xia." Yang Kai pointed in their direction. Wu Chang and Xia Shang's faces couldn't help but twitch slightly. Although they were rising stars in the Tao Source realm, and they were both confident they would become emperors in the future, there was still a huge gap between them and a veteran Emperor Realm Master like Xiao Yuyang. It was obvious that the two of them would feel severely pressured by Yang Kai drawing troublesome attention to them. "Good," Xiao Yuyang quickly said. "This king will ask you once more, and you will answer honestly. If you dare try to deceive this king, he will send you back into the Four Seasons realm and make you stay there for all eternity." As he spoke, he pointed at the light door which had yet to close. After that, he changed his tone and showed a pleasant and friendly expression as he smiled. "Of course, if you're honest and cooperative, you'll receive a rich reward." Yang Kai wiped away some cold sweat on his forehead and commented, "Is this a carrot and stick? Haha, please ask anything that you like, Senior Xiao. This junior will tell you everything he knows." And Xiao Yuyang had a satisfied expression as he asked, "In that case, the extraordinary treasure pills, you really managed to refine them? How could I possibly fake something that everyone witnessed?" Yang Kai stated proudly, "If you don't believe me, you can ask Princess Lan Sun and she can testify on my behalf. I already asked her, but this king still doesn't dare to believe that you're actually a Tao Source grade alchemist." Xiao Yuyang stated with some disbelief as he paused for a moment before saying, "Forget it, I won't think about this matter for the time being. How many extraordinary treasure pills were you able to refine?" "4. Where have they gone?" Princess Lan Sun ate one. A female disciple from the Eight Paths sect ate one. I ate one, and I gave the final pill to Wu Chang. "Oh." Feng Ming of Orthodoxy Temple arched his eyebrow with an expression of surprise and turned to look at Wu Chang when he heard this. Wu Chang nodded lightly towards him. Feng Ming immediately smiled so much that it was difficult to make out his eyes or nose. He chucked and exclaimed, "Senior Xiao." It was Wu Chang's opportunity to receive an extraordinary treasure pill. "Senior Xiao, please spare him. Hehehe." Xiao Yuyang glanced over at Feng Ming before ignoring him and asking Yang Kai, "According to what you say, there's not a single extraordinary treasure pill left?" Yang Kai sweated as he answered, "Senior Xiao, it was incredibly difficult for me to craft that one furnace of extraordinary treasure pills, and I almost failed in the process. It was already heaven's blessings that I was able to refine for in the end. What more do you want?" He fell silent for a moment before continuing. "After I refined them, the spirit pills remained in my alchemy furnace, and all of them were traded away in front of everyone's eyes. All of the spirit pills were definitely used up. Senior Xiao has also inspected my space ring, and you obviously didn't find anything, right?" Xiao Yuyang gently nodded. "Indeed, it is an impressive feat to refine 4 pills at your current level. When it comes to extraordinary treasure pills, even an emperor-grade alchemist would not guarantee how many they could refine. Since the spirit pill's whereabouts are already accounted for, then this matter will end here.